The Joe Pack Show will start in 4 minutes.
Great to have you along for the ride. Great to have you along for the ride. Thanks a lot for stopping by, Glenn. What's going on, people? We are on Twitch, Rumble, and YouTube tonight. Let's go. What's going on, Albuquerque? Good to see you. Hello. Hang out. We've got our regularly scheduled radio show right now. Thought I would run it on YouTube as well tonight. YouTube doesn't like the theme music. They think that I don't have the license and I don't have the time to put the license in, but it might not be monetized, but we're getting out there to say hello to all the YouTubers as well. Also our Rumble fans and our friends over on Twitch.
The Joe Pack Show will start in 3 minutes. The Joe Pack Show will start in 2 minutes. The Joe Pack Show will start in 1 minute.
It is the Joe Pack Show. We've got a lot going on tonight. We're going to make sure that we bring you the latest breaking news. We've got stuff out of New York, stuff out of what Donald Trump said at AmFest about the Panama Canal, and more. Tom Homan literally proclaiming war against the cartels in Mexico. I'll have that for you, too. Brianna Morello this hour about more commutations by Joe Biden that are going to blow your mind. We also have hour number 2, Case Martha Hill, and hour 3, I want to revisit my interview with Kyle Seraphin, former FBI agent, an FBI whistleblower, and he had a lot to say about what could be happening with Kash Patel coming in. Busy night. We've got Sam here Got Polo getting it done, and I will be your talk show host tonight, Joe Pags. Thanks a lot for stopping by. You might have seen this story, you might not have, but I want to bring it to you. It is, I'm warning you, it's gross. It's grotesque. It's dastardly. It's devious. It's nasty. It's fiendish and ghoulish. It's horrible out of New York City, out of the subway system there. Horrific video shows, this is the headline over at the New York Post. Horrific video shows suspect watching woman burn to death in F-train car after he allegedly set her on fire. Written by Tina Moore, Larry Salona, Joe Marino, Steve Janoski, and Dorian Geiger. 5 people had to write this one story, which is really stupid. The story itself, though, is grotesque. A migrant from let's just say it, an illegal alien from Guatemala has been arrested for allegedly lighting a sleeping subway rider on fire in Brooklyn on Sunday morning, then watching as his innocent victim burned to death in what the New York cops are calling one of the most depraved crimes one person could possibly commit. The savage killing, which happened at about 7 a.m. on an idling F train in the Coney Island Stillwell Avenue station, shocked commuters, MTA workers, NYPD Police Commissioner Jessica Tisch, who said Sunday that this heinous crime took the life of an innocent New Yorker. I'm showing those who are watching the picture of this disgusting human being that was arrested for allegedly doing this. Quote, as the train pulled into the station, the suspect calmly walked up to the victim, who was in a seated position at the end of the subway car, used what we believe to be a lighter to ignite the victim's clothing, which became fully engulfed in a matter of seconds, Tisch said in a press conference. Patrolling cops smelled and saw the smoke, then found the flame-covered woman. The commissioner said they extinguished the blaze, but the woman died at the scene. Horrifying video obtained by the Post showed the suspect calmly looking on as flames consumed the still unidentified woman who stood inside the subway car doors. A transit cop walked by, seemed to pull out a radio and say something as they continued down the platform. After the cop passed, the suspect got up from the bench, then the clip cut off. Another video shared on social media shows the suspect got off the bench to walk over to the open subway door, where he starts fanning the burning woman with a piece of clothing, first with 2 hands on the cloth, then with just one. In other footage, cops yelled to the gathered crowd, did anybody see anything? Did anybody see anything? As smoke poured into from the inside the subway car, the suspect brazenly sat on a nearby bench as cops huddled around, pulling his hood up at one point just before the officer spoke to him. Do me a favor, walk down there, the cop said, monitoring the motioning down the platform with his radio. I need the space cleared. The man stood up, then he left the scene. Unbeknownst to the officers who responded, the suspect had stayed on the scene and was seated on a bench on the platform just outside the car, Tisch said. The body-worn cameras on the responding officers produced a very clear, detailed look at the killer. That's what she said. Later that day, 3 high schoolers called police to say they saw the man and at the J and York Street station on the F line, according to Tisch and the NYPD's chief of transit, Joseph Galata. When transit's office, I don't need to read all this. Bottom line is they arrested the guy. Bottom line is he set somebody on fire. This is a guy that ICE has now confirmed was deported from this country for being here illegally under Trump in 2018. Was deported. So you might think, well, what the hell is he doing in New York City in 2024? He came back in under Biden because they opened the border. They welcomed bad guys in. I don't understand the mentality of a human being who sees somebody sitting there. Now, earlier reports I saw were that she was sleeping. I don't know if that's the case or not. And by the way, if you're seeing pictures online and names online, they are not verified. Do not go with that. But allegedly, she was sitting there either asleep or not. He lights her clothing on fire. And there's a video out there that I have looked at that I'm not going to show you. It's covered up in whatever I have in front of me now, where she's just standing there burning and nobody does anything. Now, clearly the bad guy should not have done the bad thing. But at what point will this country snap back into awakeness and say, I need to help victims. I need to help people that are in trouble. I need to be a good Samaritan and a good citizen. I need to be a good neighbor. It's like we're not doing that anymore. We're videotaping it. As the guy who allegedly did it was sitting right here. I'm pointing to it on my screen. If you're watching, this is him, allegedly. He's the guy who did it. I mean, what are we talking about here? I don't get it. So at the end of the day, we have yet another person whose life has been either changed forever or snuffed out by a bad guy Biden let in. but migrants do less crime than other people. No, they don't. That's not true. That is just simply not true. A, you don't know the crime illegal aliens are doing because some of them haven't gotten caught yet. B, anybody who's in this country illegally has broken the law to come here illegally, so they've already committed a crime. C, if these people weren't here, even if it's the smallest amount of crime possible, it wouldn't happen because they wouldn't be here. So at some point, I think that a smart lawyer needs to get with victims and victims' families and have a class action lawsuit for billions against Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, Alejandro Mayorkas, down the line. All of these people are complicit, in my opinion, by letting these bad guys in. It would be like somebody coming to your house, opening the door, and letting somebody who had committed a crime into your door, close the door behind and say, have a nice day. He's here now. You have to keep him. At some point, we have to come back to common sense, which is actually what President Trump was talking about at AmFest or America Fest in Phoenix. Definitely want your thoughts. If you've got thoughts on this, I think it's a no-brainer. There has to be hell to pay. Has to be hell to pay for this complete either incompetence or complicity between the government and the bad guys. There's something going on there that we don't see on the surface other than we know bad guys are getting in and they're doing bad things. 833-JOE-PAGS. 833-JOEPAGS. 833-563-7247. Call the number now or go to joepags.com. Scroll down. Yes, it is the 23rd of December. Yes, I am doing the radio and the video show today. Glad to have you along for the ride. I'm going to give you a piece of audio and video, if you're watching, of Tom Homan, the incoming border czar. This is what he had to say. This is before, I believe he didn't know about this yet, before we heard this story out of New York City.
And I said at the RNC, and I meant it. The criminal cartels in Mexico have killed more Americans than every terrorist organization in the world combined. Over 250,000 young Americans have died from fentanyl poisonings. President Trump's going to hold China accountable for creating the precursors he's selling to the cartels. President Trump's going to hold Mexico accountable for not doing anything about these criminal cartels. President Trump's going to designate them terrorist organizations. And we're going to wipe them off the face of the earth. Criminal cartels keep making, I got numerous death threats. Criminal cartels, you make death threats against me, bring it. Because the greatest country on the face of this earth is going to put you out of business and put you in prison. If Mexico don't do it, the United States will. President Trump will. Are you ready to secure the border?
Tom ain't playing. Borders are you playing. And I hope that the criminal cartels understand that literally day one, because people say this all, on day one I'm going to bop it too. No, this is going to happen on day one. Looks like Title 42 is coming back day one. Stay in Mexico is going to come back day one. Who knows? Maybe they'll throw Title 8 back in there day one. Whatever it is, this is going to stop. Because somebody riding in a subway on a Sunday morning shouldn't be dead today because she just existed on the subway on a Sunday morning. And by the way, New York City, I love you. I'm from Metro New York originally. You need to up your game. If there's one cop on every train, make it 2, make it 5. You need to up your game and keep people safe. Who the hell is standing by and watching this poor woman die because some idiot who shouldn't have been here lit her up with a lighter, for God's sakes? This is sick. It's sick. Want your thoughts? 833-563-7247. 833-JOE-PAGS, 833-JOE-PAGS, or joepags.com. Want to hear from you. Coming back on the Joe Pags Show. Stay right here.
This is the Joe Pags Show.
We are clear. Paul, did you hear that music?
Clear.
It sounded weird.
Yeah, me too.
I mean, her voice sounded
I also
fine.
heard
You
that.
sound fine.
Yeah,
So maybe it's something with the music. I don't know.
yeah. Once we get back in, I'll try to see if I can mess with it because I don't want to throw off the timing.
Okay. Wonder what that could be.
I'm not 100% sure.
If you're watching on video, this is actually the radio show. So this is a commercial break in the radio show. Glad that you're along for the ride. I thought I'd throw it up on YouTube today and get some YouTubers on here. You guys are very nice to follow me to the tune of about 135,000 subscribers now. We appreciate that. You can become a member. You're going to get my videos before others do. Normally, it's a good 8-12 hours before anybody else gets to see them. You can also make sure that you're subscribed here if you're not yet. It's free to subscribe on YouTube. So make sure you get that done for us as well. It's gone.
It's weird.
I do have some of what you're asking me popping up in front of me. If I see it, I'll make sure I comment on it. If not, I will not. But just letting you know. Yeah, Josh with his little commentary there. Very nice. So again, we're up on Rumble, we're up on Twitch, we're up on YouTube. Good to have everybody. Great to have you. Thanks. I appreciate you stopping by. It will be Brianna Morello at the bottom of the hour. She's got an update on some commutations that were done by Joe Biden for some really, really heinous bad guys. I mean, horrible, horrible people have been commuted. Also, why were we told there were 900 people, 900 military members from the United States in Syria when it turns out the number is more than double that? How did we not know that? We've got that for you. Also, truth in journalism, including this story out of New York. There was a picture that was circulated and a name that was circulated earlier that has not been confirmed as the person. In fact, it appears that it's not the person. So be careful what you believe. Make sure that you follow people like Brianna. Make sure you follow people like Tracy Beans. Follow people like me, because we're going to tell you the truth. We know that our jobs rely on that. If we're not truthful, if you can't trust us, then we're not going to have you keep on coming back. So make sure you stick around for that at the bottom of the hour. Let me go to Jerry, who's on Oklahoma. Jerry, what's on your mind? Hi. Hey,
Hi,
Jerry.
how are you? I've been listening to your story about, yes?
Go ahead.
Hello?
All right, there's a big delay, Jerry. I don't know why, but we're going to see if that continues with D in Minnesota. Hi, D.
Hi, Joe. Say regarding the illegal alien that set that woman on fire. In the state of Minnesota, I believe Minneapolis is our sanctuary city. And according to the statistics here, they do not check or keep statistics on immigration status when someone commits a crime. So therefore, the narrative plays out that they can't prove that more criminal aliens commit crimes because there are no stats as to their immigration
That
status.
is such. Let me say this, Dee. Let me stop you because that is such a great point. What an incredibly good point on this. If we don't report that they're here illegally, how on earth do we know what they are or are not doing?
Exactly. I mean, and I don't doubt that other sanctuary cities do the same thing, and it's to complete their narrative that the illegals are not committing more crimes. So that's
Perfect
how
point.
they cover it up.
Well, Dee, great point. And I'll compare it to this. In California, you've got the statutes that they've changed, making where it used to be $500 would be a felony. Now it's over $950 if you steal. That's a felony. Somebody who's punching somebody in the face might not be called a violent crime. They're changing what crimes are, what makes them what level of crime. So now California reports violent crime is down. Felony theft is down. Right, it is, because you changed the definition of it. If felony theft were still $500, you'd have twice as many, if not more, people that have committed felony theft. But now people are stealing $950 or less. It's being called a misdemeanor. Many aren't charged whatsoever. In fact, there are signs that I've seen that could be AI, but I trust that these are signs. A lot of people have put it up there. It says you can't take it, more than $950 in theft is a felony. Warning people, you can steal $949 and you're going to be maybe get a ticket, maybe nothing. We've all seen the videos now where people are walking in with garbage bags and filling them up with everything they can in the drugstore. You're seeing now video where you can't go to a CVS in some cities without getting somebody to unlock the plexiglass to allow you to get the aspirin you want. They're changing the definition of it. So this goes straight to Dee's point. If you're in a sanctuary city or state, that means they refuse to cooperate with the federal government when it comes to immigration and naturalization. So if somebody there is an illegal alien and commits a crime, they're going to be treated as if they're in America legally and there are citizens, and it will not be reported to the stats at the federal government, at ICE, at DHS, that this illegal alien did this thing. It'll just say this guy did this thing, and it won't be reported. Now they claim that there's a lower rate of crime from illegal aliens, or who they call migrants, which is not provably right. It's not. Let me go to Don in Texas. Hi, Don.
Hey, how you doing, Joe?
Living a dream, man. What's happening?
You hear me? Hey, the reason why nobody did anything on that subway is just a week or two ago, we just seen a guy get railroaded through court over helping somebody out in the subway.
Okay, I'll let you. I don't know what that was. The guy started yelling. Sam, the guy started yelling at me.
You know what? We're all just friends here today.
I feel like he was going to do Motown Joe, but I got scared, so I got rid of him.
Right. Yeah.
Because I wasn't sure where he was going. All right. It's, again, 833-563-7247, 833-JOE-PAGS, 833-JOE-PAGS. 100% want to hear from you today. Look, he makes the case that look what happened with Daniel Penny. And I get that. Look what happened with Daniel Penny. Well, Daniel Penny was found not guilty. It doesn't make it any more palatable that he had to go through that. Doesn't make it any more acceptable that Alvin Bragg, between meals, decided that he would go after Daniel Penny, knowing that the narrative about the other guy, this Jordan Neely guy, was a lie. He wasn't some street performer who is just performing like Michael Jackson, happy-go-lucky guy who loved life. This is 10 years ago he did that. Now, right before his death, he was somebody who clearly had a record of mental illness. He had a record of drug use. He got on the train, according to all the witnesses, and started saying, you're going to die today, and I don't care if I go to prison forever. I don't care. I'm going to do it. And he was in everybody's faces, and this guy, Daniel Penny, saved them from having to be harassed by this guy, or maybe worse. So I hear your point. Do you want to go through that by stepping in? I'll tell you this. If somebody is set on fire in front of me and I can put her out before she dies, I'm going to try. Not really sure why I wouldn't. Now, I say that now, I'm not in the position. But I certainly wouldn't step back and think this is part of the show. I certainly wouldn't sit back and say, I wonder what will happen. Somebody's going to put it out eventually, I guess. I just feel like in my heart, and again, I'm not in this situation, but in my heart, I feel like I would jump in and do something. I just do. All right, 833 Joe Pags, 833 Joe Pags. Norma, Oregon, what's going on? Hi.
Hi. Well, I definitely think we need more cops down there with armed pistols. I mean, it's just getting crazy in the subways, and by the time you're there, it's too late. It's too late.
Well, it used to. Well, Norma, you don't sound like you're from Oregon. You sound like you're from New York. So let's talk about this. It used to be
I'm from Boston.
Boston. Sorry.
I live in Oregon now.
And I love that. So you're from the East Coast.
And all through COVID, I had to ride those subways, and they were very scary.
Yeah.
I've been chased up the stairs late at night coming home from work by heroin addicts shooting up in front of you. The people doing crack, they didn't care. They would just sit there and light them up on the T during COVID because there was nobody around to watch them. And I also think they need a better grade of cops. I mean, I've been robbed by cops twice in my life, and
that's not good.
I think no, it's not good. And I think they and doing nothing to deserve it. You know, this one time mistakenly being blamed for being with someone that I wasn't with.
Wow.
And they just took it out of my pocketbook and helped themselves. It was $700 just went missing in my T-pack.
That is not okay. Norma, I appreciate. I got to run to break here. I appreciate you. I'm glad you called in. Yeah, after she talked for a while more, I could tell it was more of Boston, more New England than it was New York. Having said that, mass transit is a big deal in the big cities. Mass transit is very important. If you want people to take mass transit, and if you make it harder for them to drive in that city, you have to ensure their security and their safety. And right now, that's not what's happening. You need somebody as the mayor or the governor of New York, because they're both in cahoots when it comes to keeping people safe on the subway. You have to do a better job of keeping people safe. Obviously, this woman wasn't safe. Obviously, when the guy is deported, he shouldn't be let back in. This falls on Biden. It falls on Harris. It falls on Mayorkas. And it also falls on New York City's management, leadership, and the state of New York. This isn't okay. It never should have happened. 833 Joe Pags. 833-563-7247. JoePags.com. Go there, scroll down, click on contact. Keep it here. Brianna Morello up next about you won't believe who Joe Biden commuted over the weekend. Keep it here.
This is the Joe Pags Show.
Clear.
Hey, you're not on Rumble, by the way.
I'm not?
No.
I'm not going to stop and restart, so I guess Rumble doesn't get it today.
Okay. Special YouTube edition.
Yeah. It's happening. Good to see everybody over. Actually, we're not on Rumble today, it turns out. Over on Twitch, you know that it's subs or gift subs, also bits. On Rumble, I know that we got not a Rumble, on YouTube, I know that we had somebody gave a super chat. Mr. Roman, $2 super chat from Mr. Roman. We can't see you in Rumble. Link, thanks. No, watch here. Watch on YouTube today. I cannot restart the video because it would kill it everywhere that it's on right now. So no Rumble today. They flagged my live as about elections. I'm not talking about elections. Why can't you be normal, YouTube?
Hey, I'll fix that little piece for the podcast.
What piece? Oh, with
Just a little
okay, cool.
Going out, yeah.
Thanks.
I'll just paste another piece in there.
This young lady back. She's an incredible independent reporter, the host of her own show, The Brianna Morello Show. It's Brianna Morello. How are you, Bri? Good to see you.
Joe, I'm doing well. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. I was just on Newsmax, and they were actually doing a story that you posted about, which I thought was pretty incredible. We don't know how many people are in Syria. We can get into that if we have time.
Yeah.
But the story that you just told me about, we were texting back and forth. I don't know what this guy's doing. 1,500 people a week ago. He pardons 3 Chinese spies or something. One of the guys had almost 50,000 images and videos of child pornography on his computer. What is Joe Biden doing? Because the death sentence stuff is even beyond all that. Tell me, fill me in.
Yeah, Joe, I don't think he even knows what he's doing. I think he's just signing documents and he has no idea what's going on. Like you cited, and it's sad because no one in the mainstream media is talking about it, but Joe Biden traded a convicted child predator at this point, there's no other way to say it, who had 47,000 child pornography images on their device. Now, it gets even worse. He is now taking the death penalty off the table for the most vile human beings on the face of this earth. I'm going to spare your audience a little bit of the details because they are really horrific. But there was a 12-year-old girl who was killed, and she was killed in the most horrifying way possible, as if that's even a thing. She also had to witness the murder of her mother. Joe Biden just spared both of their murderers. It's the same guy, but just spared his life by making sure that he won't be put to death. He also spared a white supremacist, an MS-13 gang member, who was the first MS-13 gang member in our country to ever be sentenced to death after executing 2 people. Joe Biden just spared his life. And the list goes on. There was also a...
Well, I want to say, if you don't mind, I've got to stop you for a second because I want you to continue with the list. And thank you for not getting incredibly graphic. I do see, if you want to go follow Brianna Morello over on X, you'll see more details on these cases. But you said something off the top, which you're spot on. It's not him.
Yeah.
Joe Biden is not cognitively there.
Yeah.
So who has the ability to get in his ear? Is this Harris? Because she's always been for this, social justice reform or judicial system reform, whatever, prison system reform. We're letting really, really bad guys breathe the air, eat the food that we're paying for, and enjoy the rest of their natural lives while they kill these people in the most heinous manner. Do we have any idea who's pulling the strings here?
No idea who's pulling the strings here. And I think the best way to handle this, Joe, would be for somebody, an attorney, to challenge all of this. Because let's say it's your elderly parent who isn't doing well and is on a mental health decline, and you would get power of attorney to represent your parent. And that's what should be happening with Joe right now. We're seeing all these leaks come out all of a sudden now to the mainstream media that Joe, since day one, hasn't been right and hasn't been able to get himself together. So that, to me, is enough evidence for us to even question whether these things are even legitimate, given the fact that he's not even capable of understanding what he is signing. And if a court were to pull him if he go in front of a judge, I'm pretty sure a judge would look at him and say, okay, this man is not right. He's not making the right decisions. So he might be physically signing it after they drug him, nap him, whatever the case is, but he's not right in the head to understand completely what he is signing.
It is Brianna Morello. Go to BriannaMorello.com. Go check her out on her show as well. It's on X. It's on Rumble. It's all over the place. I know that you're appearing on television a lot lately, too. So you go and check out anything Brianna does. Incredible reporter. So as we're going down the list of 37, is there anything that jumps out that makes them make sense to be in a group of people that will now get their death sentences commuted to life in prison? Or is it just randomly 37 people?
It's just randomly 37 people. The only 3 people who were left off were terrorists. So individuals, the Boston bomber, he was left off the list. But everybody else was just automatically receiving this commuted sentence. And so now they're going to spend the rest of their lives in prison. I mean, literally, Joe, it's a cop killer is also on this list. And it's a cop killer whose family, after this individual was convicted, the family was given a sense of justice. And sadly, the partner went to the media and told the media that they didn't think justice would be putting this individual to death. And so the Associated Press has been running that narrative the whole day. It's on all of their stories as if this partner speaks for the family and speaks for all of them. They haven't spoken to any other victims, though, it sounds like, that are angry at this. And I'd assume that the victims' families would be angry at this because this is coming right before Christmas. So this is not the gift that they had in mind. And these people have been waiting for almost 2 decades, some of these people, for justice to take place. And sadly, it hasn't happened for them.
Yeah, it's Brianna Morello. Go and follow her over on X, an amazing independent journalist, good friend of mine as well. As we're talking about this, it doesn't matter if the victim's family doesn't want them to die. That doesn't matter. They were adjudicated. They got the punishment. That punishment should stick, in my opinion. Having said that, you said something a little while ago that I want to expand upon if you can. If this is being done by a guy in cognitive decline who doesn't have his faculties about him, and if he's doing this, you mentioned something about, can this be challenged? Can it be? Because, again, we know that in, I think it's Article 1, Section 1, something like that, of the Constitution, the president has the right to pardon, and it's very, very vast, and it's very, very all-encompassing. But if a president isn't of his own, wits, I think they'd have the 25th Amendment that got to get rid of him to stop him from doing this. Is there any legal aspect you can think of that would allow somebody to say, I'm going to have my attorney, like the victim's family says, what are you, nuts? This guy's got to go to death. Can they get an attorney to sue to stop a commutation? I don't know that he can.
Yeah, I don't know if they can or not. That would probably be the first time I've ever heard of it happening too. Now, I've been texting attorneys and I've been trying to ask them. I haven't really heard back on a definite response to all of this. But I mean, I would assume if your loved one signed something like a will or some document like that, you could challenge whether or not they were even capable of understanding what they were signing at the time. So I would like to see that be brought up. I mean, I think we need to, because we need to set the tone. When we're sitting here and we're allowing like serial killers, I mean, there's an individual who killed 12 people who just had his life spared. When these are the people we're sparing, we really have to sit here and wonder what's going on in the White House right now, because this shouldn't be happening. These people should not be freed. These people should have been killed a very long time ago.
Yeah. It's Brianna Morello. Go follow her. Go check out her show anywhere she happens to be. I know it's on X every night, right? I mean, almost every night I look up there and you're on there, but it's also on Rumble, yes?
We're on Rumble, yep, as well, and X as well. It's been interesting on Twitter. There's a lot of feedback on Twitter these days, but Rumble's where it's at. So you guys can find us every day at 7 p.m. Eastern time.
Brianna Morello. You can see it on the screen if you're watching. You can see her name there. You go to our website, BriannaMorello.com. I want to do one last thing on this, and I want you to speculate a little bit if you don't mind. You and I speculate off the air. We might as well speculate on the air a little bit. Mm-hmm. What's next? Do you think that he's gonna pardon his entire family? Will he pardon himself? It doesn't appear as though he cares. He doesn't care whatsoever what he does, because every move he's made so far, the left and the right both have complained about. So he doesn't seem to care. What do you think's in store?
Well, there was a report in the Daily Mail where they were saying that Jill Biden is really revengeful right now, and she wants to go after both Kamala and Barack Obama.
Right.
So I think they're going to get really dirty with it, whether or not they start admitting what they did during the Trump years, or what they were doing behind the scenes during the Biden years, because we all know that Joe Biden wasn't capable of doing any of the lawfare that we saw. We'll see how that plays out. It seems like there's a lot of internal feuding, and they're trying to throw a lot of people under the bus. But I do assume that Joe Biden is going to have to issue a pardon for himself.
Yeah.
Again, no one's ever done that before, so we'll see how that plays out. But he's got that pardon everyone in his family because they were all connected to those same dealings that Hunter was connected to.
Yes.
And we just saw too that there was the release of a photo, which is Hunter Biden, Joe Biden being introduced to Xi Jinping, the Chinese communist leader. And so again, this is not
It's all
really
so dirty.
surprising. It's so dirty, but it's
Oh
so
my
obvious
gosh.
in your face now. They know that there is a chance that they could actually go to prison. So I imagine
Well, here's the
pardons
thing.
all around.
Well, what you just said a little while ago, though, plays into this. You're right. Barack Obama and Michelle Obama, Joe Biden and Jill Biden, they all hate each other now. Kamala Harris and Doug What's-His-Face, Emhoff, they all hate each other now. And suddenly there's a leak that Biden was never cognitively there. Oh, that's kind of weird that just came out now. Suddenly there's a leak about, Biden and his son meeting Xi Jinping. All this stuff is coming out. Suddenly there's a rumor about Barack Obama is this, that, or the other. Doug Emhoff is beating somebody up. So, I mean, this is going to get nasty. And they've got almost a whole month of nastiness to go because whether you like it or not, whether those who don't like him like it or not, Joe Biden still has the office. He still has the job. I think Jill's making a lot of the decisions. And by the way, I think they both voted for Trump. I'll be honest with you. But having said all of that, this is going to be the bumpiest ride we've seen. I don't want this guy to get away scot-free. I think when he pardoned his son, he thought he got away with it. He thought he sort of de facto pardoned himself because he was involved in all of that. But that's not true. You got to pardon Jim and Karen and Ashley and Jill and himself, or else the left has turned on them already. Releasing that stuff about his cognitive abilities, they've already done it. So I mean, any speculation whatsoever? Come on, let's do a little gossip. What's going to happen between now and the 20th of January? I think some bombshell politically is going to happen to where Biden leaves office and leaves dust in his wake, to where the Democrats are going to have a hard time recouping or rebuilding.
Yeah, I think he's going to have to issue everyone with the last name Biden because obviously the evidence has mounted completely against them and they're in a lot of trouble. I think, though, individuals like Liz Cheney are going to get pardoned. I didn't like the fact that House Republicans started referring her for criminal charges now because that pushes Joe Bidens who want to protect her. So she will likely receive a pardon as well. And there's a couple of other Democrats who are out there on the cable news channel saying, oh, well, I wouldn't object to a pardon because we all know I'm going to be persecuted next. Well, you're not going to be persecuted. It's not what you guys were doing all these years to President Trump and his allies. What's going to happen is you're going to be held accountable for your behavior. And that's what you fear the most. Now, I don't know if the new AG is going to actually do what we need her to do at this point. I would love for Pam Bondi to be a shark out there and going after all these people. But both the cable news channels seem to be talking very highly of her, which has me very doubtful. So I don't know what's going to happen. I just imagine that these pardons are getting even worse. He's just trying his best to throw all these pardons out there now so that it drowns out whatever controversial ones are going to come our way soon.
Makes a lot of sense. Go and check out this pinned post over on X. It's Brianna Morello, Breanna, last name Morello. Go and follow her right now. She's got a huge following. Does an incredible job as an independent journalist. I told you I was just doing Newsmax. We actually focused on one of your stories. If you don't mind, while we have a little bit of time. Are you telling me there's nobody who works at the Department of Defense that is in charge of counting how many military members we have in Syria? That can't be true.
Joe, it's so crazy. They originally reported there was 900 U.S. service members in Syria, and then suddenly they came back and admitted that there was 2,000, which tell me that there was going to be a report coming out soon, and they were just trying to get ahead of it, it sounds like. But what's been happening in Syria, I think every American needs to pay attention to, because obviously there's just been a change in leadership in Syria. The civil war has ended, and now Bashar has been kicked out, and he's in Russia. So I want people to understand what's going on, though. U.S. troops have been leading airstrikes in Syria. Apparently, we just killed the leader of ISIS. There was also a well-known terrorist who was just recently pulled off of the terror watch list. There was a reward out for him if we were ever captured. Well, for some reason that was pulled, and I saw that because Sarah Adams, the former CIA target agent officer, she posted about it because she's been keeping an eye on Syria as well. There's a lot of strange things going on in Syria. Whether or not our CIA was responsible for potentially doing a coup and to switch out the presidency and switch out the leadership in Syria, we don't know. I mean, it's not like it's an upgrade for Syria. It's another terrorist organization that has now taken over. But then there's also, I had Congressman Tim Burchett on. We were talking about how there are 9,000 ISIS fighters who are it was supposed to be a temporary prison in Syria that the U.S. was working with local groups to hold them in this prison. Well, they're ISIS fighters, and ISIS just the other day tried breaking them out. And so potentially we'd get 9,000 freed ISIS fighters now added to. Now, they were supposed to go back to Turkey, but Turkey doesn't want them. I don't know why we're keeping these people alive. They're ISIS fighters. You might as well put them down because there's no purpose in keeping them alive. but our government has been helping to do just that. So there's a lot going on in Syria that I think Americans need to pay attention to, because it sounds like we're working with a terrorist organization right now just because we're trying to get back at Russia and Iran for who they were backing in Syria. But ultimately, nobody wins. It's Islamic extremist terrorist organizations that are there right now, and we've helped them out, it looks like.
We decided to dress the same today. We match. It's Brianna Morello, both wearing red for the festive time of the year, talking about troops and ISIS and death penalty people. When it comes to the number of troops, I know that if you were in the room, a different question would have been asked. Had I been in the room, a different question would have been asked. The complicit media just sat there and said, oh, okay, it's not 900, it's 2,000. Does nobody want to know why we didn't account for 1,100? And the second part has to be, what are we doing there? Yeah. Why are we in Syria? Did we help with the overthrow of Assad? Did we really help this new terrorist organization? It's almost like the Arab Spring happening specifically in Syria now. Has anybody asked the question, what are we doing there?
Yeah, you don't hear that because Congress never authorized any of this. So the fact that Joe Biden is so openly bragging about leading airstrikes, about to give them humanitarian aid is what they always call it, but we all know it's just paying off terrorists.
Right.
No one's asking these hard questions. I mean, I think we need to be asking these questions completely, because right now it looks like our government, again, is sitting here funneling money to terrorist organizations. And there's no reason to even be there in the first place. There's no benefit to us being there besides the fact that we were trying to push back on Russia and Iran. And it's just another proxy war that we shouldn't have been involved in the first place. But here we are. And it's really disappointing to see that those folks who are in the room don't speak up. You know, they sit here and they criticize Pete Hegseth and say that he's unqualified to run the Pentagon, when in all actuality, our own Pentagon doesn't even know how many U.S. troops are sitting in Syria, which is so mind-blowing to me. The only explanation I could really have for this, though, Joe, is that these aren't U.S. service members, traditional U.S. service members who are stationed in Syria. This has to be some type of agency, maybe CIA or some operation going on right now, because it doesn't make sense why they wouldn't have that head count available for us.
No, I couldn't agree more. It's Brianna Morello. Go and check out her show right now. It's over on X. It's over on Rumble. She does a great job. Let me hit one last thing. Yeah. I know that people trust you who have consumed what you do because you're very, very good at it. They trust me. That's why the following is growing all over the place for both of us. The media is not trustworthy. When we saw this case out of the subway in New York, you and I both knew that picture they were showing wasn't necessarily the victim. Yeah. People were pushing a narrative that this is the victim, that's her name, this is how old she was, she's a this, she's a that, she's the other, and another illegal alien did something bad. Well, we do know that the illegal alien did something bad according to police. Yeah. We do know that somebody was set on fire who just happened to be asleep in the subway. It's disgusting. But the bad reporting on this, just to be first, you have a comment on that? Because you and I do it right. We're not going to report it until we know we can.
Yeah, so I saw it first, thought it was a little strange. It looked like there was an image, like a little icon in the corner of the image that they were using of her. So that was my big red flag. Then I also noticed that there was a couple of other issues as well with it. It just didn't sound right. So I called the NYPD myself, and I asked the NYPD specifically, who is the suspect? Who is the victim involved in all of this? And they turned around and said, we don't even know who the victim is. We haven't identified the victim. And so the image that's floating around online is fake information. So what I would say is this. I think a lot of people circulated it in good faith because there was a lot of independent journalists who were circulating it, and so they thought that it was safe.
Right.
My thing is this. It took me about 45 seconds to call the NYPD's media contact line and to ask them whether or not they've ID'd the victim in all of this. And I instantly got a response back from them. So that wasn't hard to vet. I would just urge everyone, before sharing something, if it seems strange, take a second before you share it, because independent journalists, we are different from the corporate media world, which means I've worked in corporate media. I've seen it before. There's a lot of questionable characters. The government's able to manipulate the corporate media because they are able to make phone calls. They need a lot of federal funding at sometimes. PBS, obviously, NPR, all of these organizations need federal funding. So they're going to be more favorable to the government. So the government has control over them. Independent journalists, they don't have control over us. So what they might be trying to do is discredit us by putting bad information out there and seeing us run it as if it's factually correct. And so it's our obligation, regardless if it's a friend or not, you have to run it. You have to be honest with people, and you can't sit there and lie about these things. You know, it looks like that was an AI generated image.
I agree.
And so you have to really ask these questions.
It's Brianna Morello. Go and follow her everywhere, BriannaMorello.com. Also, go and check her out on Rumble. Check her out on X. I know you show up on OAN all the time. At the end of the day, more information is better than less information, but make sure that it's righteous information before you report it as fact. And you gave a good lesson today on doing that on your X. Brianna, thanks for jumping in the chair. Merry Christmas if I don't talk to you.
Merry Christmas, Joe. Thank you.
All right, you're the best. We're back after this. Stay right here.
You're listening to Joe Pags.
Clear.
One in the chat over on Twitch. I appreciate the 100 bits, Dano. We do bits, we do subs and gift subs over on Twitch. On YouTube, we do super chats and also memberships. Plus, somebody gifted me like 50 memberships at one point. It was very, very nice. You can gift memberships as well. Lou, 44 months. Let's go, Idaho Lou. Those on YouTube aren't used to getting the show as we do it live. This is a live radio show. This is a commercial break that you're hearing now. You don't hear the commercials, obviously. You're hearing a royalty-free song. Curtis, 100 smacks. Are you serious? Curtis, W5CER. Hey, Joe, been a listener since the early 2000s before there was even a YouTube. Glad you're still in the air. Curtis, that is amazing. Merry Christmas, brother. $100. Everybody say hello to Curtis over on YouTube. Thank you. Wow, awesome. Curtis, thank you again. Appreciate that. I certainly appreciate Brianna Morello finding some time to come on today. We just happened to be talking because I was on Newsmax with Carl Higbee before we started tonight. And one of the stories we were talking about was a story that Brianna posted over on X. And it was that story about not knowing how many military members are in Syria, which drives me crazy. How could we possibly not know that it wasn't 900, it was 2,000? That's nuts. More audio and video from President Trump at AmericaFest over the weekend. What does he want to do about the Panama Canal? I like what he has to say about that. Stick around for that and an awful lot more on the Joe Pags Show. Stay here.
Joe Pags.
Clear.
All right, people, appreciate you hanging out. We're doing it for the people today. Thanks for being here. And again, Curtis, let me say that again. Amazing. Thank you. Very, very generous for no reason out of the blue. Merry Christmas. Thank you. This is the top of the hour commercial break for those of you on YouTube. I will be back. We had 2 more hours coming your way. Kay Smythe Hill is this hour. Next hour, we're going to play Kyle Seraphin, who's got a lot to say about what's going on with the FBI and what might be happening under Akash Patel FBI. Don't go anywhere. 2 more hours of the show. Stay here.
The Joe Pag Show will start in 5 minutes.
EJ, thank you for the gifted sub. Let's go. Appreciate that. Thank you. Gun Guy, the 39 months. Let's go, Gun. Trace, the Prime, 18 months. Let's go. Could have had 2 babies. Again, Curtis over on YouTube. Good to see you guys, YouTube. I don't put the show up on YouTube that often. YouTube certainly is more restrictive than other sites are. But thought I'd put it up tonight. Hope you're okay with that. And Curtis, thanks again for coming through like a champ. Jim, did you watch this whole 4.5-minute Trump video?
The Joe Pag Show will start in 4 minutes. Yeah, I think I did.
I don't want him to drop a bomb, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I don't think he did. Let me... I
You don't have time to watch it now.
I watched them all earlier, but I guess I wasn't specifically
It would have jumped out at you if
listening
you
to
would have done that.
Yeah, I think it's fine. The Joe Pag Show will start in 3 minutes. The Joe Pag Show will start in 2 minutes. The Joe Pag Show will start in 1 minute.
Thanks for hanging out. Let's go. Show's about to start up again. YouTube Super Chats. You can also do memberships or gift memberships on Twitch, bits, subs, or gift subs. Appreciate you. Merry Christmas. There's a lot going on. We had America Fest in Phoenix over the weekend, and just about everybody who's anybody in conservative, except for me, but I was busy. Anybody who's everybody who loves America, America first, those who really want this country to be better and to get back on track, were there. And soon-to-be President Trump was there as well. And he was talking about a sea change that's going to happen in this country. He talks in very direct words about how, generally speaking, we've got to be great again. Then he gets into the Panama Canal zone. The Panama Canal was built, I believe, 1903, and it was built by us. I guess France was trying to build it but failed. We took it over. We bought the project. We finished it, and for some reason, Jimmy Carter sold it to Panama for $1 in the 1970s. Sam, did you know that?
Are you serious?
$1.
OMG.
Do me a favor, because we bought it for $40 million in 1903. See how much $40 million in 1903 would be in today's money. See if there's a conversion from 1903 to 2024 when it comes to money. I'm guessing, would $40 million be $1 billion? It'd be hundreds of millions, if not $1 billion. The inflation rate since then and the devaluation of the dollar since then has to be massive. You finding anything?
So the inflation calculator that I usually trust only goes back to 1913, but $40 million back in 1913 compared to 2024 money would be $1.274 billion.
Wow. So it's even higher than that because we go back 10 more years. So we're talking about over $1 billion spent in today's money, and Jimmy Carter sold it for $1. Now, us having control of that was a much smarter thing to do. Now, for those who don't know, you don't have to be a geographical genius to understand, there was no way to get from the Atlantic to the Pacific. There wasn't, other than going around South America. If you look at the global map, and if you want to go from New York City to somewhere on the West Coast, or the East Coast, I should say, of Asia, you would have to go all the way down from North America through Central America, South America, around the tip of South America, and back up. That's a long damn way. I think, and again, I was on with Carl Higbee earlier tonight on Newsmax. I'm pretty sure he said it saves 12,000 miles by going through Central America and not going around South America. Sam, that's nuts. I mean, that's nuts.
Wow. That is a lot of miles.
It's a lot of money. It's a lot of miles. It's a lot of time that you're saving. And we built it, and he gave it back to them. Well, Donald Trump ain't playing that game. I've got a longer soundbite of him coming up where he talks about the Panama Canal zone. He basically says we're taking it back. And Panama's like, well, no, you're not. And he's like, well, yeah, we are. But first he gets into generalities about how we need to, and then there's specifics attached to the generalities, he said, about just getting America back on track.
And I said at the RNC, and I meant...
Actually, that was Tom Homan. We've already given you Tom Homan.
And in conclusion, on January 20th, the United States will turn the page forever on 4 long, horrible years of failure, incompetence, national decline, and we will inaugurate a new era of peace, prosperity, and national greatness. It's going to be national greatness. It will be something very, very special. And you could use a little of that because you haven't seen any of it in 4 years. What's happened to our country is so sad. We're going to cut your taxes, end inflation, slash your prices, raise your wages, and bring thousands of factories roaring back to America and right back here to Arizona. Because,
I mean, again, generalities with some specifics sprinkled in, lower taxes, so on and so forth. At the end of the day, we need to be back. We've got to be back. We voted for this guy so we can be back. You know, enough is enough is enough. It just doesn't make any sense not to fix what's wrong. Then it gets into the Panama Canal zone. I want to do that in a second. First, I want to give you this one, though. Another soundbite from President Donald Trump. It was earlier than the one that he just gave.
the actions I have described today are just a small preview of the common sense revolution, because that's what I call it, a common sense revolution that's coming soon to America, to a theater near you, right? But it's coming to you through your president, Donald J. Trump. The people have given us their trust, and in return, we're going to give them the best day one, the biggest first week, and the most extraordinary first 100 days of any president in American history.
I believe him wholeheartedly on that. I think that's exactly what's going to happen. It's going to be a day one where his hand is going to be sore from signing all of these executive orders, getting things back on track. And I love that he says a return of common sense. That's what we need. We don't have common sense in this country anymore, not on a governmental level. They want us to believe that Joe Biden was cognitively there when, of course, he wasn't. They want us to believe that up is down and down is up and left is right and right is left and men are women and women are men and so on. They want us to believe these things that just simply weren't true and defied logic, reason, rationale, and common sense. I'm glad he said that. Now about the Panama Canal zone.
As another example of the things we're doing and looking at, it's such a terrible thing is happening. The Panama Canal is considered a vital national asset for the United States of America due to its critical role of American economy, the whole world economy, and also national security. The Panama Canal. Has anyone ever heard of the Panama Canal? Huh?
Yes.
Because we're being ripped off at the Panama Canal like we're being ripped off everywhere else. A secure, he just said take it back. That's a good idea. Where do you come from, sir? He doesn't come from Panama. Oh, yeah, good. A secure Panama Canal is crucial for U.S. commerce and rapid deployment of the Navy from the Atlantic all the way to the Pacific. It's an incredible thing, and drastically cut shipping times down to U.S. ports by days and even weeks. The United States is the #1 user of the Panama Canal, with over 72% of all transits heading to or from U.S. ports. Think of that. So we built it. We're the ones that use it. They gave it away. Considered one of the one of the great wonders of the world. The Panama Canal opened for business 110 years ago and was built at huge cost to the United States, and it really is big when you consider the lives and the treasure, the equivalent of $1.2 trillion today. You don't hear those numbers. 38,000 American men, almost all men, they went there to be construction workers and dig. They were diggers, and they were brave. 38,000 men died from infected mosquitoes in the jungles of Panama during the construction period. Think of that. We lost 38,000 men.
Let me just interject. Can you imagine the lives that we put at risk and lost to build this canal, and Jimmy Carter gave it back for $1? It was ours. You know, Panama, if you look through the history of it was owned by Colombia, and we basically allowed it to form its own nation. And for some reason, the modern day Panama thinks they just get to have the results of our hard work. And by the way, when he says that we're the biggest user of the Panama Canal, he, of course, is spot on. But what he didn't mention, and maybe he will, is that we pay them to use it to the tune of millions of dollars, and we built it.
Teddy Roosevelt was president of the United States at the time of its building and understood the strength of naval power and trade. When President Jimmy Carter foolishly gave it away for $1. During his term in office, it was solely for Panama to manage and not for China or any other country to manage. You see what's going on there? China.
All he has to do is say China, and it gets that kind of reaction, which is always pretty good. So, I mean, basically somebody yells out, take it back. He's like, well, maybe we should. There's something going on there. And I made this comparison earlier on Newsmax when I was on with Carl. It's like leaving Afghanistan and letting China come and take over Bagram that we built. All the stuff that was there is ours. All the technology that's there is ours, to the tune of billions and billions of dollars. And we just left and we said, yeah, let China have it. When strategically it made sense for us to keep it because it was 400 miles away from China. It's a very good place for us to have had eyes and ears and a military presence. And now you've got the Panama Canal that we also did. So we have enriched and we have uplifted the people on this planet for hundreds of years, and they keep on taking advantage of it because of weakness like Barack Obama and weakness like Joe Biden and weakness even of some Republican presidents. Not of this guy. Because Trump is like, listen, it doesn't matter if you like how he speaks or how he does his hair or the way that he wears his jacket. That doesn't matter. Or how he tweets or posts. What matters is this guy, is he out there looking out for you and me? And is he reminding people, look what I did? The one thing that I regret in business, and I've been in business a long time, is that I haven't been as good as I should have been in telling people what I've done. That's always hard for me. Although I've got a big ego and all that, it's always hard for me to say, hey, don't forget I did that. Don't forget I said that. Don't forget we made that money because of this, because I did this, that, and the other. I'm not really good at that. I think a lot of you are the same way. You're not very good at patting yourself on the back because it becomes arrogant, a little bit, self-appreciative. And I don't want to be that. I'm not saying Trump is that. Trump is very good at, and lately in a very humorous way, he's a funny guy. He's very good at making sure you understand we did that, therefore we benefit from it. Like with NATO, you guys aren't paying enough money. We're paying way too much. You're going to have to pay more money. He got millions upon hundreds of millions of dollars from the NATO members because they weren't paying enough. Or the WHO, which he is now saying we'd like to get out of the WHO. Why are we giving you any money? I don't want to give you any money. Because, again, the United States of America has been an overwhelming good. We're on the positive side. If the ledger's right down the middle, here's the negative, here's the positive. We're on the positive side by a lot. We have enriched and helped out so many people on this planet. And yet, weak, mealy-mouthed idiots keep on giving it away. And we should stop. Your thoughts on this? 833-JOE-PAGS, 833-563-7247, or joepags.com. Keep it here.
Joe Pags.
Clear.
What's happening, people? Good to see everybody. I appreciate you hanging out. Thanks. Bits, subs, gift subs over on Twitch. Always appreciated. I think at this point, to let you guys know, programming-wise, Polo is hooking me up, and we're going to have best ofs after this, after tonight. So tonight will probably be the last one for this year, to be honest with you. Good to have you over on YouTube as well. We don't live stream on YouTube that often. They for some reason, they demonetize. They claim I don't have the license to Love Grenade or War Dogs and Warhog, whatever it is. Raw Dogs and Warhogs or War Dog, whatever it is. But I do. I have the licenses for that. I just haven't submitted it to YouTube, so they probably will not monetize. But it's always nice to get a super chat over there or a membership over there. Members will get my videos on YouTube before others will. Appreciate you. All right, thanks, Polo. I'll figure it out. Great to have you. Thanks. I appreciate you stopping by. Lots going on, lots to get to. Do you think we should take the Panama Canal back? I don't think we just take it. I mean, Jimmy Carter and his lunacy gave it away, basically. By the way, talking about lunatics on the left, Bill Clinton is in the hospital with a fever in Georgetown, at Georgetown Medical Center, I guess it is. And that's been reported by TMZ. Polo sent me this a little while ago. We'll keep an eye on what's going on with that, but allegedly he has a fever, and he's in there getting care at the hospital. That's Bill Clinton. But when it comes to Jimmy Carter, I don't know what he did that was right. I lived through it. I was young. He was elected in 1976, served from 77 to 81. I don't know what he did that was right. He didn't let our athletes go and compete in Moscow. He didn't light up the Christmas tree because our embassy had been raided in Iran and 400 some odd, I think it was that many, hostages were taken. I mean, the misery index, basically, he owns it. The misery index is the inflation rate, the mortgage rate, the unemployment rate. It was double digits everywhere. It was horrible. It was an horrific time for the United States of America. And if I remember correctly, and I'm willing to be wrong on this, but I think I'm right, the first time we saw $1 for gas was under Jimmy Carter. That was huge news back in the day. Huge news. Just a horrible presidency. Thank God we had somebody who loves the nation, wanted to put America first again, and Ronald Reagan to come in and fix it. But I can understand exactly what sense it made for Jimmy Carter to say, Panama, you can have it, give me $1. I don't understand, but I'm sure it's a binding deal, and Trump, through his negotiation skills, can probably get control of it back. I mean, if I were to sell it back to the country, which I never would have done, but let's say that's an idea I had, it would have been for a ton of money, and I get free passage forever. I mean, imagine that. Sam, can you imagine that we built it, and they get to charge us for using it?
I mean, I know that Trump is, the master at making deals, but that isn't even a deal that Carter made. That's a horrible deal.
It's ridiculous. You're absolutely right. It doesn't make any sense, and I'm confused by it. I would like to not be confused by it, but I am confused by it. And I don't think any other president, again, willing to be wrong, I'm just going off the top of my head here, but I don't think there's any other president that has said, we need to think about getting some control back of that canal we made in Panama that has enriched that country that only exists because we basically allowed it to exist. Again, we were an overwhelming, on the plus side, on the positive side, this country. And yet there are still people in this country that just hate it. 70 some odd million people voted for Kamala Harris. Can you imagine what a bad day we'd be having today if that's what happened? I mean, the bad guys on this planet are standing at attention, and they're scared about what's going to happen January 20th. And that makes me happy. 833-JOE-PAGS, 833-563-7247, or go to joepags.com, scroll down, click on contact, send us an email. Let us know what's going on there. Make sure you're following on all the social media as well. Today, I did a story on that subway death, the murder on the subway, where a woman was lit on fire by somebody in this country illegally, and he's been now arrested. Police say that he's the guy that did it. They named the suspect. They showed pictures of the suspect. He's a guy that was deported in 2018 under Trump and then came back under Biden and ended up, according to police, killing somebody on the subway today. Let me go to Mike, who's in Maine. Mike, we appreciate you. What's going on?
How's my buddy Joe Pags?
Living the dream, Mike. Always good to hear from you, brother.
Yeah, what's going on? Look, I think everybody, we only got a few more days left before we're going to be there to get everything done with the Trump administration. I think everybody needs to calm down and enjoy Christmas. And, I lived through them days when it was dour gas from Carter.
Yeah. It was a bad time, Mike. It was a bad time.
It was horrible news for my GTO. I can tell you that right now.
That's a gas guzzler for sure.
Now, listen, when we talk about what's going on with Panama, I know he's talking about this right now, but I got to tell you something right now. We haven't invested a lot of money in our Navy in a long time. Now, we not only have to cover this if it goes down, we got to cover the Suez Canal, in the Taiwanese Strait. So we got to pay attention. There's a lot more to it than just talking about what we need to do in Panama Canal. I'm in agreement that we never should have did one. It never should have been done, the deal,
right,
the way it was. But we got a lot of other territory to cover.
We do.
And our Navy has not had enough money to fund itself for a long time. And especially in the past 4 years, if you get my drift.
No, I'm with you. They haven't made a budget, and they've been audited. Mike, we love you, brother. Merry Christmas. I got to run here. But we have to do better in how we're spending and how wasteful we're being, and whether our armed services have the money and the resources they need. We have a budget that they've blown out of the water every year for 7 straight years. They've been audited, and every single time they can't find some of the money. That's got to be fixed. You got to get Pete Hegseth in there. You got to get people in there who care about this country and care about the military to do it right. And he's right. It's not just the Panama Canal. A lot of tentacles to that situation that we'll see how it unravels. But the Panama president, by the way, already said, I'm not giving it back. That's not happening or something. You don't have much of a leg to stand on, brother. We come back, it's going to be Kay Smythe Hill. We got a lot going on, including Hollywood moving to God, to faith. We'll explain. Keep it here.
Don't be an A-dub. Stay with the Joe Pags Show.
Wow, that was abrupt. Appreciate Mr. Roman and Curtis with the super chats. Thank you over on YouTube. You can do so as well. You can become a member. We appreciate you being a member. Members get benefit of getting, I think I put emotes in there too. I think you get emotes if you're a member. But you also get the benefit of seeing my videos first. When I post something at like midnight, the videos don't actually go public until 10 or 11 o'clock the next morning. And several members are actually viewing the videos before they're public. So that's what you can do over on YouTube. On Twitch, subs, gift subs, and bits. Appreciate you. Paula, what is the actual window here? Because this is like 1815. I don't think that's going to make it.
You said 1815?
Yeah.
1839 is the exact time for content.
Right, but that would mean 2 seconds at the end. We'll see. Yeah, bumps in, bumps out, all sorts of stuff. Yeah, I couldn't do that. If I let the bump go 10 seconds, there's no way it's happening. You always have the one full over on YouTube's got to do a down thumb, thumbs down, whatever. Great to have you along for the ride. Thanks a lot for stopping. Lady back as par usual. It is a Monday, so it's Kay Smythe Hill on a Monday. Kay, how are you? Good to see you.
I'm doing good. I'm not. I'm exhausted. I'm ready for Christmas. Are you not ready for Christmas? Let's go.
I think I'm ready for Christmas. It is an exhausting time of the year. It's supposed to be happy and holly and jolly and all that stuff. But yeah, I'm ready to get to the meal. Now, in my house, because Italian, we have the big meal on Christmas Eve, and it's fish, and it's it could be crab and lobster and all sorts of clams. I can't wait. It's going to be fun. Now, Christmas Day, I'm so stuffed that I really can't do. Here's the thing, though. Santa Claus comes, late at night, Christmas Eve, early in the morning, Christmas Day, right? We can all agree to that. That's when Santa comes.
Mm-hmm.
Why do I have to get up at the crack of dawn because Santa Claus decided to come in the middle of the night? Can't I get up at 11, 12 o'clock? Why do I have to get up? This is me every Christmas. 7:30 a.m., I'm rolling out of bed, and the kids are, Santa came. Santa, I know. Whatever he brought, and I'm sure he brought a lot, is going to last until 11 o'clock. Now, I'm in trouble. If I don't get up, half asleep, picking my nose and scratching my head, then I'm in trouble. So, Kay, why is that a thing? Can I sleep in on Christmas?
I'm sure you can sleep in on Christmas. You won't be there for the memories. So there's your little sprinkle of guilt, your little Christmas sprinkle of guilt from all of the women everywhere.
Oh, my God. Are you part of my family? That was very good. That was very good. I grew up Catholic and Italian, so we know the guilt. So that was, but again, every Christmas, historically, this is me. Every picture, this is me. Hey, you got a doll. Great.
Magical.
So I'm looking forward to it. God bless the baby Jesus. I'm glad for the reason why. The reason for the season is why I do get up. But I am ready. I'm with you. I'm tired. I'm going to take a couple of days off. Kay, first time since June I've had any time off. That's nuts. Isn't that stupid?
First time since June? That's
Yes.
insane. That's like clinically insane. Well, I don't know, Joe. You're one of those people who you really embody what you do. Like
Yes.
there's very little difference between sort of when you're at work, Joe, versus like when, the mic's on Joe.
Right.
I think that makes it a lot easier. I think that, like I go on vacation and I work and I still feel like I've gone on vacation.
Yes.
Because I also have that sort of career. But no, not taking any time off to just like switch your brain off. Like we've talked about this before, my trash TV days where I go watch trash TV and I switch my brain off. You've got to do that for yourself, Joe. Like pick a Kardashian or like, pick the latest sitcom.
But you know what I do? I play
Doll.
Fortnite. I'll play some video games, but then I'll play 2 games of Fortnite, and 8-year-old children will kill me in 2 seconds on the game, and then I'll go back and start working again. So I'm literally going to try to not work, but you know that I'm still going to post videos wherever I happen to be. But I mean, we had an election to win this year. I think this year was more important than any other recently because there was an election to win, and I feel like we did our job.
I really do feel like we did our job. Can you not tell that my eyes are suddenly like starting to get like, so I'm picturing you taking time off, like playing Fortnite, and I'm like, oh, what's my version of that? And I'm sort of like ready to go. Because this year was exhausting.
What do you have a version of that?
I mean, the trash TV, you know what I do, Joe? I paint. I love to paint. When I was
you're
on
very
my
good,
honeymoon,
very good artist too.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Oh, well, no, thank you. That's very kind of you. But you know, even when we were on our honeymoon, like it was snowing, it was cold. A couple of days we just sat around and painted. It was so nice. Like it's just such a great way, sort of like switch your brain off and just relax. I don't know. It's just something I've always done. But I think everyone should have their own little sort of like solo version of that.
100%.
You know, taking the, even if it's just like brief moments, you know, like I can't tell you how many times I just sit around during the day and I'm like, okay, I'm going to take like 5 seconds here. I'm just going to be like, God, checking in, what's going on.
Right. Yeah.
You know, you got to take those little bits of time for yourself.
Good segue, by the way. Good segue, by the way. It's Kay Smythe Hill talking about God, Hollywood turning toward faith. I want to start with Matt Rife. Matt Rife is a young, really good-looking dude who I guess was on some show where it was a quick, snappy comedy, insult each other show. I don't know the name of the show, but he was that guy. And then he sort of went out and started doing comedy shows. He might have been doing comedy clubs while he was doing that show. I don't know. But his rise to fame has been meteoric. He's just, all of a sudden, Matt Rife is everywhere. And you're telling me this guy turned to God? I mean, I've seen his comedy, and there's some nastiness to it. He's not blue by any means, but there's a lot of innuendo. But he just got baptized? Fill me in.
He did. He represents, Matt Rife is one of those guys. I haven't seen a whole lot of his work, but he's one of these men or one of these people, I guess, who's just kind of, like you said, had this meteoric rise to fame. I think more through the proliferation of social media than sort of like TV or any other kind of medium. I don't know if it was like a TikTok thing. Like, I'm sure he had like a following, whatever. He's hugely famous amongst like particularly Gen Z, I think, more than anyone. Okay. And definitely, obviously, like millennials, because we still, I think, are desperately trying to be Gen Z at this point. I just want to age in reverse.
I don't want to be a Gen Z ever, no. You're too smart to be Gen Z. Sorry, Gen Z. Go ahead.
No, that's very kind of you. But no, I was kind of as taken aback as you initially, but I also have the sort of luck of working for Million Voices. So I'm also exposed to a lot of these sort of great stories that I'm really calling sort of this like great American revival. We're really living through a pretty historic moment, not just here in the States, but all over the world where it comes to Christianity. Right. And so, you know, this year we've had people like Russell Brand. He's come to Christ and sort of surrendered himself, sort of like he has surrendered himself, like he was baptized in the Thames, I think, which, okay, as a Brit, I'm just going to throw this out there. The Thames is flipping disgusting water.
It's nasty.
And I didn't read into it deep enough to figure out which part of the Thames it was. Because it's a big river. There could have been a nice part of it. But I'm like,
is there a nice part? Well, we watched The Apprentice UK. I've told you that. And it's obviously based in London. And we see the Thames. Don't say Thames. It's the Thames. We see that, and it's murky and muddy and brown and nasty. So what is the problem? Why is it so ick? What is? It's not man-made, right? That's been there forever, hasn't it?
It has. I mean, like it's sort of like managed now. I would say, but it's. I mean, it's. You know, you're talking about a city that's been there since, or settlement that's been there since before the Romans, really. Wow. It's thousands of years old. I don't know how old the city of London is exactly. I know it's over thousands of years old. Yes. I think it's called Londinium. That was the Roman name for it. But it's just like humans are just nasty. Gross. Yeah, humans are just disgusting. That's all it is. That's the simple, quick answer. I had a friend who wanted to become one of those. There's a particular word for it. It's like a type of diving where you go into places like Scuba? The Thames and you stay for like 7 hours or something that. No, maybe not that long. I could be getting this wrong.
I don't know.
All I remember is that it can take like 7 years off your life expectancy. So he decided to do something else. But yeah, it's a beautiful river, but it's disgusting.
There you go. So he got baptized there. Matt Rife, again, his comedy, a lot of it now people say that he's not really ad-libbing, but I think that he probably is. A lot of it is audience interaction, and there's a lot of innuendo in what he does. Again, I don't know that he curses. He might.
I think
a little
so.
bit.
I'm pretty sure he does.
But watch his stuff. I think he's very quick, very snappy, very sarcastic. He's light on his feet, and the guy is pretty funny. But I am surprised to hear that he's sort of turned to religion. That's pretty cool.
I mean, there's so many. Like I said, like Denzel Washington, he just became a minister. He got baptized again. I think it was this weekend or earlier this month. It's pretty incredible. And I also saw an interview with Neil McDonough, who was in Yellowstone. He's one of those guys where if you see him on TV, you're like,
he's
that
the guy with the white hair
and
like the icy eyes, right?
Oh yeah, no, he's got a very specific look.
Yeah, you know the guy.
Yeah, you know the guy who's also in Tulsa King. Massive shout out to Tulsa King, another great Taylor Sheridan show. He's in a new movie, Homestead, so I guess he's on his press tour for that. But he was talking about how now when he gets, I guess it's like a breakdown sheet from the studios to tell actors and people in entertainment what the studios are looking for, what they're looking to buy in the year coming up. I think he said it was like 4 or 5 out of the top 10 studios are all like, oh, if you've got a story of faith, we're really interested in it.
Wow,
and
that's
I
cool.
think this is magical. Like, I mean, we talk about how exhausting this year has been, but I mean, the revival events happening on university campuses, like all over the country, like you could sit and doom scroll Twitter all day, just looking at these like huge events, huge crowds.
Right.
Like, I mean, so many different schools, and not even just like Christian schools. I think it's like incredible. Like there's this huge wave happening. And my favorite part of it, Joe, is that it's people like Russell Brand, who was once so smacked out on heroin that he had mice living in his hair full time. The people, like, he's still someone who swears.
That's real. That's real.
Yeah, it's real. That's a true story. That is not hyperbole. I remember watching a documentary about him like 15 years ago or something about this. It was insane because this is the thing, he's been insanely famous in Britain for a very, very, very long time.
Right.
A lot longer than he's been sort of famous over here in the States. And so we remember him when he was sort of in his addiction, when he was coming up in his fame, and all these sort of like twists and turns that his life has taken. And sort of similarly to Matt Rife, I think they're both like quite raunchy people, like you said, a lot of innuendo, lots of swearing. Joe, I follow Christ, and
you are a potty mouth.
Soul.
You are a potty mouth.
Like, don't ever go listen to old episodes of my old podcast. Anyone. Like, it's
don't ever listen to our conversations
words.
Off the air.
Right? Like, exactly.
Well, listen, I curse like a sailor too. I don't think that makes you less Christian. I think some people who are very, very devout don't love it, and I get that. But I'm with you. I mean, you can still do what you do. So Matt Rife can still do what he does, although he's given his life to Christ. And I'm down for that. It is Kay Smythe Hill. Go follow her, kaysmythe.com. Watch her on Newsmax. Go to millionvoices.org as well. The U.S. Capitol is going to have a nativity. I didn't know that was in question, that there would be a nativity at the Capitol. Did somebody try to stop that from happening?
Yeah, it's been like I think it was like a more than a decade-long court case, or almost a decade-long court case. This is a piece I wrote up for Million Voices. It's actually, no, it's not happened before, Joe. There hasn't. It was earlier this month. They put up the nativity scene. Again, looking back at it, I was like, I didn't really understand from some of the reports I read whether it was like the actual physical, like we have the nativity outside of the house, the sort of, wooden or like cardboard thing. They also did sort of like a live reenactment. I know for sure that I saw that. I don't know if it was just a live reenactment. I think it was more just sort of like the headline that really stuck with me, which I get it. I'm in news media. We're supposed to read beyond the headlines, but it just sort of played so well into this sort of great revival movement that I'm seeing happening everywhere. This sort of like second Jesus revolution, where it's not just, people going out and sort of like surrendering to Christ and, getting saved. It's this more tangible shift that's happening. I think a lot of people, at least a lot of people that I've spoken to, they sort of attribute Trump's win I think that the nativity being displayed at the U.S. Capitol, just the fact that that case won, what I found
I got to stop you because I know that you know this, but you're not from here, so I'm gonna give the more than maybe others will give you. The argument about the separation of church and state is so stupid.
Yeah.
It is the dumbest thing I've ever seen. The argument from the Satanists and from the atheists and from those who are just stupid is that somehow the First Amendment requires that you can never be religious in public, and a public place funded by taxpayers can't show any religious beliefs either. That's not true. It simply says Congress shall pass no law establishing a religion, nor getting in the way of our means of worshiping however we see fit. So the idea that somehow that separated religion from state isn't true. The whole separation of church and state, as I'm sure you know, was a letter that Thomas Jefferson wrote to a church saying, we're not going to get in the way of what you're doing. It had nothing to do with not wearing a cross if you're a Congress member, with not having a nativity scene out front, it has nothing to do with not realizing somehow that we are a Judeo-Christian system based on the Magna Carta that mentions God throughout the entire text. Mm-hmm. So it blows my mind when stories like this happen. I'm so dumb. I assumed that there was always a nativity scene at the Capitol. It hasn't been there?
Hasn't been there. Hasn't been there till this
year. Did I just educate you on anything, or did you know all that?
No, I didn't know any of that, actually. I'm sort of I'm still trying to compute it because I play the pictures.
Look at the First Amendment.
Sort of
the religion section of the First Amendment says you can't pass a law saying you got to be Anglican, which is what they were under King George. That's why we left. You can't do that, and you also can't get in the way of anybody worshiping as they see fit. So when somebody tells a school teacher you can't wear the Star of David, they're lying. Of course a school teacher can wear the Star of David or a cross or whatever the hell the Muslims wear. At the end of the day, you don't have the right as a government to get in the way of my worship as I see fit, and certainly there is no separation between government that was founded on Judeo-Christian values and the nativity scene. Anybody who says there is a separation there is stupid, or they're lying. Sorry, I'm done.
And they're also kind of becoming on the wrong side of the law. That's the coolest part of all of this to me. It's, because this is a multi-generational thing, right? It's hitting every generation from different angles. We've got sort of my age demographic, people a little bit younger, people a little bit older, where it's hitting from the sort of Matt Rife perspective. In the schools, what we're seeing is this huge movement towards, school choice, which sort of makes it easier for students to go to a lot of religious run schools are private, and they tend to be better when it comes to delivering education in many ways, because, a lot of public schools are massively underfunded and pretty much ignored or have been ignored for the last 4 years by the federal government. Read all about it on Million Voices. It's terrifying. So we're seeing sort of these huge wins in the sort of parental choice movement, where states or I think there was one county, I can't remember the name of it. It's literally on the tip of my tongue. But they voted to allow students to go and take time off campus to go and get religious education, which is never happened before. And you would think oh yeah, that must be some kind of extracurricular thing. That would just be a normal thing that kids could go and do. No, that wasn't allowed up until literally this year. There are so many different things, Joe, and it's been this kind of very stealth movement, I think, over the last 10 years.
And all of a sudden it's hitting critical mass.
And I'm here for it. I think America is truly unafraid right now to stand up.
It has hit critical mass. I'm here for it too, and there's a little bit more of that interview. You can check it out later on up on Rumble. It is the Joe Pag Show. Lots more coming your way. We appreciate K. Smythe Hill. Go to K. Smythe at K. Smythe on all the social media or millionvoices.org, and we're back after this. Stay here.
This is the Joe Pag Show.
Clear.
One in the chat. Let's go. Thank you, Brad. Appreciate the 200,000 from KB. Thank you, KB. Merry Christmas right back at you. Level 2, bopping on the hype train. Frandy, the 34 months. Let's go. Thank you. Appreciate the resubs. Appreciate the gift subs. Appreciate the subs and the bits. Let's go. Over on YouTube, you can tell me that you like when I put it up on YouTube. Super chats are available. Also memberships. Appreciate you all. Let's go. All right, Jess, thank you for the 2 gifted subs. Thank you, brother. Appreciate that. Let's go. Real, thanks for the 100. Appreciate that. Let's go. Great to have you. We appreciate Kay coming on. Kay Smythe. He'll go follow her at KAYSMYTHE on all the social media. Go to millionvoices.org. Go check her out over there as well. Great news stories every day. Updates on news stories next hour. Luigi Mangione, the guy charged with the first-degree murder of the CEO of United Healthcare. He makes a plea in court today. Matt Gaetz, former U.S. representative, says what he's thinking about doing next. And it's a surprise to me. I didn't see this coming. Also, I guess that ethics report does say a lot of things about what he's alleged to have done. He denies all of it, but he gives a speech at America Fest, and he says what he might end up doing next. So that's going to be interesting as well. Keep it here for that. We've got Kyle Seraphin, a former FBI agent who turned FBI whistleblower. He started talking about what the agency was doing when it came to the privacy, the surveilling of American citizens at places like school board meetings and outside abortion clinics and so on. We're going to break that down for you next hour as well. There's a lot more program coming your way. Do me a favor, stop by the website, joepags.com. Scroll down, click on Contact, send me a note, or go and sign up for the newsletter. When you go there, you'll see all things Joe Pags Show. Check out the podcast, too. Keep it here. Much more to come.
This is the Joe Pags Show.
Clear.
One more big hour, people. I appreciate the hype train over on Twitch. Did we get to level 3? Did it stop at 2? Oh, it's at 3. What happened? Let's see. Real. We had Jesh. We had, Dr. Rock. I appreciate the 500. Let's go. Merry Christmas. Got us into level 3 territory. I'm going to go and I'm going to grab another soda. We got another big hour coming your way. Those of you on YouTube, I know that you're not used to this. This is actually the live radio show, and I'm just showing you the video. So you hear the in-between, you hear the commercial breaks, you hear the top of the hour where we talk to each other, whatever, and it just continues. One more hour of the program. We go 6 to 9 p.m. Monday through Friday. Normally up on Rumble and up on Twitch and also on Patriot.tv, but tonight it's on YouTube and it's on Twitch. I appreciate you. I'll be back. We're at level 3 now. 2 minutes to see if we can get to level 4 when I get back. Appreciate you.
The Joe Pag Show will start in 5 minutes. The Joe Pag Show will start in 4 minutes. The Joe Pag Show will start in 3 minutes.
Yannick, actually seeing that 1,000 bits. Thank you.
The Joe Pag Show will start in 2 minutes. The Joe Pag Show will start in 1 minute.
For the next hour, it is the Joe Pag Show. We've got, I want to revisit an interview I did last week, I believe it was last week, with Kyle Seraphin. He is a former FBI agent who's an FBI whistleblower now, who blew the whistle on the FBI going after American citizens who are just showing up at school board meetings or maybe praying outside of an abortion clinic. The weaponization of this DOJ under the current administration is pretty disgusting. We'll get into that with Kyle Seraphin coming up. The House has released the probe in the investigation into ethics regarding Matt Gaetz. I like Matt Gaetz. Met Matt Gaetz once in person at Mar-a-Lago. We've certainly been very friendly on Spaces on X. We certainly follow each other all over the place. I think he's a really, really good guy when it comes to believing in America first, believing in MAGA, believing in doing the right thing in government. Matt Gaetz has a problem, and the problem is that he dared go after Nancy Pelosi for how much money she's made on stock deals. Stock deals that were voted on by the House of Representatives, where she used to be the speaker. You know, Sam, she's now the speaker emerita. Where the hell that means?
Right. And very rich, too.
Very rich. Speaker, a rich emerita.
Yes.
So she's that person. Well, they released this probe, and they're alleging that he drugs and sex and underage women and prostitution, all this other stuff. And he's been responding to it immediately. You'll remember when Matt Gaetz was accused of all sorts of stuff. He came on, I think it was Tucker Carlson first on Fox. Then he came on my show. And he answered every question about what was going on. And he said that his father was being blackmailed and $25 million was involved and this was going on. This guy doesn't have a problem with just saying what's really going on. So in this probe, the first and foremost thing that's very important, and this is posted by Molly Hemingway, and this is way before the release of the Ethics Committee report. But Hemingway, who you probably have seen on Fox, she's a very good writer. She's with the Federalist. She said right from the beginning, again, more than a month ago, who the DOJ was relying on when it came to, or who the House was relying on when it came to the allegations against Matt Gaetz. And even this DOJ under Biden found those witnesses to lack credibility. Let me give you the story. House probe into Matt Gaetz relies on witness DOJ found lacked credibility. Again, can I say it again? This is the Biden DOJ said this person lacked credibility. Back to the story, again by Molly Hemingway. Follow her at MZ Hemingway over on X. A convicted felon said he was paying the legal fees of Matt Gaetz' accuser and controlling her. The last 8 years, the Department of Justice have been a disaster for the rule of law. The sprawling intelligence and law enforcement agency ran the Russia collusion hoax, hamstringing President Donald Trump during his entire first term in office, and interfered in the 2020 election by falsely telling social media companies that a laptop with incriminating information about the Biden family business was Russian disinformation, and telling them to censor speech and debate about the topic. Under President Joe Biden, the department ran 2 norm-obliterating politicized prosecutions against Trump in an effort to silence, bankrupt, imprison, and defeat him. Instead of rooting out the corruption in the department, most of permanent D.C. did absolutely nothing in response, yet somehow the chattering class was shocked when Trump nominated loyal foot soldier Republican Representative Matt Gaetz, Republican of Florida, to be Attorney General in Trump's second term to fix the DOJ. Gaetz had proven to be one of the most effective advocates against corruption at the DOJ and was unwilling to back down in the face of overwhelming public pressure. However, Gaetz does not fit the education nor experience profile of many previous attorneys general and has limited experience practicing law. Many Americans are sick and tired of elected officials and media pundits doing nothing as DOJ attempts to destroy the country with its abuse of the rule of law. Among the many powerful figures in Washington, D.C. opposed to the Gaetz nomination are some who are attempting to thwart it by releasing a report from the House Ethics Committee that will attempt to tie Gaetz to salacious allegations involving child sex trafficking. The report comes years after DOJ dropped its investigation into the same claims on the grounds that the 2 central witnesses had serious credibility issues. Yet these are the same 2 central witnesses the House Ethics Committee has relied on for its critical report of Gaetz. The same report it is leaking to compliant reporters as part of the coordinated effort to thwart his nomination as President-elect Donald Trump's next Attorney General. I mean, let's break that down. What does all that mean? Here's what it means. The Department of Justice, for 8 years, so it goes into the first Trump administration and super ramped up weaponization in the Biden administration, decided they would not levy charges against Matt Gaetz. Now, you want me to believe that he's dealing with illicit drugs, illicit sex with a minor, and the DOJ that hates him, is not going to charge him? Make me understand how that makes sense to anybody who's watching or listening. And again, Molly Hemingway has a very good reputation. She's somebody who reports the truth, many times unabashed and unafraid before others will even touch it. So if they could, they would lock up Matt Gaetz and throw away the key. Why didn't they? I mean, they locked up poor Peter Navarro and Steve Bannon for just saying no to the January 6th committee when it comes to testifying. And by the way, they had presidential immunity because they were talking to the president. They still locked him up. Yet they can't get Gaetz. Why not? There is no doubt on this planet, if there were anything incriminating, Gaetz would be behind bars. Now, many people on X are talking about this in reference to Gaetz and this thing being released. Many are saying, why aren't you releasing the slush fund? And who got paid? Who got paid? because there is a multi-million-dollar slush fund protecting members of Congress who have been alleged to have done something wrong, most of it about sex. And the people complaining get paid off through this slush fund that you and I are funding, and we're not allowed to know what the deal is. So I think it makes a lot of sense. Just release that. Let's see. Because now that you've released it, there was no reason to release this report from the House when they were using witnesses the DOJ itself would not rely on to lock up Gates. And Gates now, by the way, has an opportunity to do one of two things. Well, one of many things, I should say. He has the opportunity now to still go and get sworn in on January 3rd. His resignation does not stop him from taking office, the office he won. Now, he said that he's not gonna. Then he announced some deal with OAN to go do a nightly show. But why not? Go back to the House and face the people accusing him. Face the people that released this report with no reason to release the report. And when you release this report, you must, and they didn't, I'm sure they didn't, you must preface it with, the witnesses questioned in this report were found to not be credible by the DOJ under Joe Biden. Really let that sink in, because that's an important aspect of this case. That said, Matt Gaetz does go to AmericaFest over the weekend, and he does make an announcement, or makes an assertion that I didn't expect.
You've asked which perch I will be fighting from next. And some of you throughout this conference have even given me a few suggestions. My fellow Floridians have asked me to eye the governor's mansion in Tallahassee. Maybe special counsel to go after the insider trading for my former colleagues in Congress. It seems I may not have had enough support in the United States Senate. Maybe I'll just run for Marco Rubio's vacant seat in the United States Senate and join some of those folks. And my friend Steve Bannon and others have suggested that I return to the House of Representatives on January 3rd, but I would remind Steve, when he got out of prison, he didn't punch a guard on the way out. For the moment, I'll enjoy being one of you. It was James Madison who said that the most powerful position in America would not be congressman or senator or even president, but that of citizen, because we put such an obligation on the citizenry to ignite the patriotism that the country needs.
Well, what do you think Matt Gaetz should do next? What should his job be? Should he run for governor of Florida? It's coming up soon. Should he ask to be the person appointed to the Senate seat? Laura Trump dropped out. She says she's not in the running anymore. Should it be Matt Gaetz? Should he go back to Congress and call them all to account? Hey, insider trading made you all these millions of dollars. Hey, let's release the report on who got paid off for whom when it comes to the slush fund. And maybe, just maybe, dun dun dun, Gaetz should run to be the Speaker of the House. I mean, that'd be something, wouldn't it? That'd be something, Sam.
I don't know that he would be confirmed.
Probably not, but it would be pretty funny to see him try and scare Mike Johnson into maybe acting like the Speaker. So what do you think Matt Gaetz should do next? Right now, he's on schedule to become a pundit, to go on television on OAN every night. Looks like he's going to continue and going to go ahead and do that and report to the people. He's very good on camera. He's very good on a microphone. He's done it on the Gaetz Network. You've been calling it the Matt Gaetz Network recently. Should he do that? What do you think the role should be? And should any credence be given to this report? I say no, because the DOJ that doesn't like Matt Gaetz said that these so-called witnesses were not credible. Your thoughts on that? 833-JOE-PAGS, 833-563-7247, or go to joepags.com, scroll down, click on Contact, and we're back after this. Stay here.
You're listening to Joe Pags.
Clerk.
What's happening, people? Good to see everybody. Appreciate you hanging out. We're going to revisit that interview with Kyle Seraphin coming up at the bottom of the hour. I think it was a great interview. Gave us great insight into what the DOJ can be, what the FBI can be, and so on. Don't miss that. Glad you're hanging out over on Twitch and also on YouTube. I will post this entire show over on Rumble after the show, so make sure you stick around for that. If you used to go into Rumble checking out the show, I'll put it up there later. Great to have you on the Joe Pag Show. Your thoughts about Matt Gaetz' future. What should Matt Gaetz do? District 1 Republican, great state of Florida, resigned his position because he was nominated to be the Attorney General. They must have gotten wind that the ethics report was going to be released and that it looks damning. It's not, because the witnesses aren't credible, but it looks damning, and I think that he makes the right decision to get out of the way if he knew, and I'm sure he did, that it was going to be released. It shouldn't be released because unless it has this great disclaimer saying the witnesses utilized by the Ethics Committee are not credible according to the DOJ under Joe Biden. That's what should have happened. But what role should he play? I think he plays a role. I think that he's a guy who's going to be in the fray for a long time. What is he, 40? He's a young guy. We're going to have him in the mix somehow, some way for a long time. Maybe he becomes this great communicator or, as part of the press or the media. That'd be fine. But I want Matt Gaetz' voice out there. But it's really important that there is no credibility, according to the DOJ, to the people that they were using as witnesses in investigating Matt Gaetz. And again, Joe Biden's DOJ didn't charge the guy, and they hate him with a white-hot hate. That means a lot to me. So what role should he play? 833-563-7247. 833-JOE-PAGS. 833-JOE-PAGS. Want to hear from you big time. Let's go to the phone lines. Deborah, Pennsylvania. What's going on?
Hi.
Hey.
So what I wanted to say was I have nothing against Matt Gaetz at all. I'm thinking the way it works is that probably the reason the DOJ didn't prosecute him was because way back he did a favor for them. I don't know what it was, but I have a sense that it was a give and take. I think that's how it works, and I could be wrong, But it could be. And I'm not saying I don't have anything against Matt Gaetz,
Yeah.
okay? I'm just thinking that's kind of how it works. And please don't think I'm against him or anything. But
Is it just a feeling that you're getting, Deborah? You just feel like that happened?
There was something. There was something back. I don't remember what it was because
Okay.
it was a while back. But something changed when they were going to prosecute him, and they stopped. And he did something for them. I'm not sure exactly, but maybe I'm wrong. Okay, it's just something to think about. Maybe there was something.
Well, Deborah, I hear you. I don't know the case. I appreciate you calling in, by the way. And listen, there's nothing wrong with speculating a little bit. I know Matt Gaetz pretty well. He's been on the show a ton of times, even at times where he was directly under attack. He did something nice for us and came on the program. I don't remember that. I don't know what Matt Gaetz could have offered to Joe Biden's DOJ. In fact, he's been going after them strongly with a vehemence that you don't normally see. He's been going after Merrick Garland and, this Matthew Colangelo guy that was the number 3 guy that goes to Alvin Bragg's office, the DA's office in Manhattan. I don't know that he's taken it easy on anybody, not the FBI that's in the DOJ. He's been rough on just about all of them. So I don't know what favor you might be remembering. Believe me, if I knew, I would tell you. I'll look into it. I have no problem, going down that rabbit hole a little bit. I will say this, though. On the surface, a couple of things are going on here. Number one, the DOJ started investigating him even when Trump was in office. That DOJ, we know, was undermining Trump. We know all the stories about the Russia collusion stuff. We know all the stories about the Hunter Biden laptop. The DOJ under Trump was not his DOJ. I think it will be this time, but it wasn't then. So that DOJ would love to have found Matt Gaetz guilty of something. They continued the investigation through the Biden DOJ, and they decided there are no charges here. It's like the FEC, the Federal Elections Commission, that looked into the Trump election, into his campaign, and said there were no violations here. Yet somehow Alvin Bragg found violations that there weren't, that the FEC said. So if you know that the DOJ is supposed to be even-handed, it's not. Let's start from there. And then we start weighing it down with how they went after Trump and anybody who's associated with Trump and tried to prosecute Trump, and Matt Gaetz is a Trump guy. You know that if they could, because they literally charged the former president with garbage they knew wouldn't stick. Why wouldn't they charge Matt Gaetz? Now, Deborah thinks there might have been a favor that he did. I don't know about it. I think they had absolutely zero, zilch, nada. And they just couldn't do it. Because if they could have charged him, they would have. They could have, go down the list, charged anybody associated with Trump world. They could have. They're not because they can't. So I'm waiting to see what comes out of this. I do know this. I would love to see Matt Gaetz and others, even those others who are still in the House of Representatives. I would love to see them put pressure on the Speaker of the House and the Senate Majority Leader and find out exactly what's going on when it comes to the slush fund you and I are paying to the tune of millions upon tens of millions of dollars to people that are claiming wrongdoing by members of Congress. Why can't we know that? It should be public record. It's our freaking money. Doesn't make any sense. All right, let me give you an update on this Luigi Mangione guy. This is the suspect police say killed the United Healthcare CEO, Brian, I think it was Johnson, right? Outside of the hotel, the Hilton in New York City. Luigi Mangione, this is from CBS News. Luigi Mangione pleads not guilty to state murder, terrorism charges in United Healthcare CEO assassination, written by several people over on CBS News. Luigi Mangione pleaded, it's Thompson, not Johnson, pleaded not guilty in the New York courtroom Monday to state charges in the murder of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson earlier this month outside a Manhattan hotel. Mangione faces 11 state charges, including first-degree murder and furtherance of terrorism. His next court appearance was set for February 21st. State prosecutors allege Mangione was found in possession of what's believed to be the murder weapon, and surveillance video shows a man matching his description before and after the attack, including outside the Hilton where Thompson was shot in the back. A key difference between the state and federal charges Mangione faces is that the state argues the shooting was an act of terrorism. Additionally, the federal charges open the possibility of the death penalty. Mangione, who's 26, is being held at the Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn after he appeared in federal court last week. Mangione entered court with his hands and feet shackled. He was wearing a burgundy sweater over a white-collared shirt and khaki pants. I'm showing a picture now if you're watching the stream. Mangione leaned forward and said not guilty into a microphone when the judge asked him to enter his plea. He spoke quietly and extensively with his attorneys during the brief court appearance. His hands were unshackled long enough for him to sign some papers. He appeared to be listening intently as his attorney spoke to the judge. Mangione was flanked by 4 officers as he sat in the courtroom. Prosecutors said in court they've been assured by federal prosecutors that the state case will move forward prior to the federal trial. Mangione's attorney, Karen Friedman Agnifilo, requested immediate expedited discovery in the case. Prosecutors said the amount of discovery material is voluminous, haven't used that word in a while, including thousands of hours of surveillance video. He's being treated like a human ping pong ball. Friedman Agnifilo said Mangione is facing 2 proceedings, one of them with the possibility of the death penalty, and she told the court she's very concerned about Mangione's ability to get a fair trial, saying statements made by government officials have been prejudicial. Quote, he's a young man and he's being treated like a human ping pong ball between 2 warring jurisdictions here. He's federal. Oh, you know what? Your righteous indignation is not going to work on me. Sorry. We've all seen the video of somebody doing something heinous. If it's not your guy, well, then get him found not guilty in the court proceedings. If it is your guy, I've got no love lost for him, and I don't feel bad for him. 863-563-7247, 833-JOE-PAGS, 833-JOE-PAGS. We come back, Kyle Seraphin will revisit that interview on the Joe Pags Show.
Joe Pags.
Clear.
Pete Cook, I appreciate the 10 months. Let's go. Nice polo. Kenworth is a good truck too.
Some say it's worth it.
Fa la 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 la. This man back, he's an FBI whistleblower, former FBI agent. It's Kyle Seraphin. Kyle, how are you? Good to see you again.
I'm doing great. How you doing, Joe?
We just were talking about how we need some winter in Texas. What is the story? Why it just doesn't get cold? It got cold for a day and a half.
This is just Texas. This has always been Texas. As far as back as I can remember, I went to high school in Texas. I was a kid. It always just messed with us. Like there were times when it was freezing on Halloween, and there was times when we sweat on Christmas. So I don't know.
It doesn't make sense. 10, 15 degrees cooler, it would at least feel seasonal. So we'll work on that. We'll see if we can get something done. Let's talk about the FBI. Let's talk about what you uncovered at the FBI, what your whistleblowing was about, and then how a new era might change all of that. Remind people what it was that you were telling folks about what the FBI was doing.
So I joined the FBI in 2016. My whistleblower activity actually started in 2017, which just means that you're complaining about something that's going wrong and that it's either a violation of rule, policy, or law. So I started doing that internally. So most people don't know about all that kind of stuff, and it's not really that interesting. What people will remember is that in November of 2021, one of my disclosures, which I took to Congress, and that was a new avenue for me, was made public to the American people, and that was that the FBI was spying on parents at school board meetings. Now, specifically, what I said is that Merrick Garland might have lied under oath. That was actually the violation of law that I was reporting, and the FBI helped me out by letting me know that I wasn't welcome to come back into the office. They ended up going after me for a lot of other things as well, which was mostly COVID related. And at the end of the day, I ended up losing my job there. So I doubled down. I continued to push the envelope forward. People remember that I exposed the story about the FBI investigating Catholics in Richmond, Virginia. And I think at this point, there's probably like 17 or 18 different whistleblower disclosures that I've done either by myself or on behalf of others. And we've spawned at least 4 congressional investigations and a whole bunch at state level with different attorneys general. So there's been a lot of malfeasance, and I've just tried to be a mouthpiece for those that are inside the Bureau that don't want to lose their career. I'm happy to do it. I already lost mine, so let's go.
Well, the thing that doesn't make any sense to me, Kyle, first of all, you're a patriot, and I appreciate you looking out for us. But you're supposed to be protected. There are literally laws that say whistleblowers will be protected. Did they try to say that you did something that was not attached to what you were talking about publicly? Or they made it clear to you, okay, you did this to us, we're going to do this to you? How does that work? You should have been protected.
Well, the problem is there's 2 entities that are supposed to go out there and investigate it. But at the end of the day, the government investigates the government and determines whether or not the government was wrong. And so that seems like it's totally inappropriate. Yeah, so there's actually a group. This is the silliest thing, and you probably don't know this, Joe, but when you are an FBI whistleblower, your whistleblower claim is adjudicated and determined to be either valid or not by a group called OARM at the DOJ. And that stands for the Office of Attorney Recruitment and Management.
Wow, I had no idea.
The people that go to the career fairs to try to get like new attorneys out of law school and decide whether or not they're going to hire them, those are the people that decide whether you're a whistleblower. It was actually a slap in the face when it was actually developed. It was kind of a way that DOJ said, we're not going to take these people seriously. And you have about a 99% chance of being adjudicated not a whistleblower based on the odds that have been out there. So it's just not stacked in the favor of people who want to do the right thing.
Well, that's got to change. So with a change of leadership, first of all, any experience where Ray was not the guy in 21, was he? I guess he was, wasn't he?
Ray was the guy then, yeah. So I joined underneath under Comey, and then I had a little bit of time under McCabe, who actually was in charge of the field office I worked at before he became the deputy director and then the acting director, and then Ray. Yeah. So my first impression of Ray was actually really impressive. He showed up 2 hours late to his own meeting in Washington, D.C., about a 2-minute walk from the Hoover building. And he kept everybody in their seats, 2,000 employees for the entire Washington field office. He just made us sit there and wait while he talked to some of his friends.
You know, anytime somebody's questioned like a Christopher Ray, and by the way, it's Kyle Seraphin. Go in and follow him everywhere, KyleSeraphin.com. Check out his podcast over on Rumble, Kyle Seraphin. And Seraphin has PH in the middle. It's not an F. When it comes to these people in leadership at the FBI, they don't ever answer a question ever. An open hearing, a closed hearing, it's an active investigation, Kyle. Can't talk about it. But when there's supposed to be oversight by Congress, there never seems to be oversight. Do they live in a prism or in a world where they feel as though they're the top of the top, even though they're not? They're in the DOJ. They work for the executive. The oversight should be coming from Congress. But they live in a world to where they think that they are the penultimate, and that's it. You can't do anything to me.
Yeah, it's a couple of tiers of that. So the way the Bureau actually structures it up and the way they actually try to create it is they want to insulate the FBI's director. This has been going on for years. And they do the thing that they refer to as bubble wrap, or that Chris Wray has called bubble wrapping. He actually said that out loud to folks when he was visiting the different field offices. He's like, I never actually get to meet the people. And he said the same thing when he was talking to Brett Baer on Fox. What he said is that I have oversight of the FBI, but he doesn't have leadership of the FBI. So once people kind of understand that, it gives this sort of plausible deniability, like, well, I was unaware of this thing, and I'm appalled just as you are, Senator. Wow. You know, this kind of nonsense. So this is actually on purpose. It's the thing that they try to do because the FBI is a big status quo machine. And at this point, it's trying to protect a very corrupt and I would say rotted, toxic leadership culture. It's probably more management than leadership. And all the people that have been kind of brought in, and they're mostly post-Obama, but they're definitely all sort of post-9/11 types. They have a very different idea of what the FBI is. They want it to be an intel agency, and they want it to serve their own purposes, which means they all get jobs and bonuses, and they get to go into the private sector afterwards. And they kind of don't care about the work that Americans think they do, which is to say frontline, basic level, complex criminal investigations, which is what the FBI is actually sort of set up to actually handle.
Right. And I think that we're confused about what the FBI's role is as well. It's Kyle Seraphin. Go to KyleSeraphin.com. So when it comes to Comey and McCabe, we know that they were spying on Trump Tower. That's it. That's done. It was on the front page January 20th of 2017 when Trump was taking office, wiretapping at Trump Tower. We know that was in the New York Times, for God's sakes. We know that it happened. We also know that they lied to the FISA court. We know that they were doing circular news articles where you could probably opine about this more. It looks as though the FBI will take a news article, get a hold of somebody, tell them to write the news article, then they can go to court, the FISA court, and say, hey, look, there's a news article that the FBI actually set up to be put in there. All of that stuff was going on. This isn't that long ago, Kyle. Can these people with a new FBI director coming in, say Kash Patel, can they face the music, or are they scot-free from what they did in 2017 to try to stop Trump from becoming the president?
So there's two pieces. First of all, you need to have the willingness of actually going after people that violated federal law, and there's a potential that happened.
Yeah.
So you have to have internal investigations by the inspection division or by an outside entity to come in and actually adjudicate that this is a federal crime, then present it, and then you have to have like a DOJ that's actually going to go after it and say, we want to indict these people, we want to prosecute them, we want to hold accountability. I don't think the American people can handle another scandal like that again. I don't think that we should have to see our judicial institutions fail in this way and actually target Americans. So there has to be some accountability, but that's the real word. Accountability, not retribution. It can't be a revenge tour. It has to say rule of law matters. This is a thing that has been a violation of law, and these are people that are held to the highest standards. In theory, the people that have the most responsibility to say the right thing and do the right thing. It's kind of interesting because we've talked about the FISA court. You and I have talked about it before.
Yes.
And I know this is a regular topic that people worry about. How did they lie to the FISA court? One of the things that has to happen, it's one of the recommendations that I've put in there for the incoming FBI director, is you need to grant a clearance to all the members of the judiciary committees, the people that do oversight of judiciary, because as it stands right now, the only people that are read into what FISA courts do is the intelligence committees. And so those are a different animal, and they don't have oversight capabilities. So we really need to give oversight the read-in on the security protocols to come in there and actually do the job that they are supposed to do, because otherwise...
hold on. I want to stop you there because that's very... you're going to get ahead of me. You're way smarter than I am. You've already told me that. But I'm trying to follow you. the FISA court doesn't get oversight from the Judiciary Committee, it gets oversight from intelligence, that's a problem because intelligence, they're the ones that were going to the FISA court. So if I hear you right, Jim Jordan's committee would have to say okay to a continuation of a FISA warrant?
Well, what they should do is be able to investigate it internally and have the clearances read in from the FBI to go and actually do that look. Okay. What you always hear about is sometimes they bring somebody into a skiff and they brief them up and then they leave. When that person comes in, they've been basically read in on very selective programs, but that's not what oversight is. If we're being honest about oversight, what you have to have is the ability to look at the books. I mean, think about any audit that anybody has ever done, and if you've done it honestly, you got to say, here's my books, take a look at them and tell me what you think. And I've participated in FISA audits at the FBI's Washington field office. And for whatever it's worth, I'm a pretty bright guy. I like to think I am.
Yes.
And I failed my audit because it was so complicated to use the actual internal system, not to do what I meant to do, but to actually mechanically operate in a thing that's called what is it, mitigation, I want to say, or minimization. I wasn't even able to do that in the software that they've put out there. And that software, by the way, is the exact software that goes directly from the NSA into an FBI field agent's ability to do their job. So I can look at raw FISA in that, and I didn't have the ability to redact and make things sort of safe for consumption and to share around. That all, by the way, is Obama-era legacy. That is something that people don't realize happened in 2016. Obama actually opened the door from the NSA and said, yeah, you can have access at the FBI to all of the raw FISA. Not stuff that's been analyzed, not stuff that's been looked at, but like I can look into Joe Pag's email and just read it to see if you've been talking to Russians. Because if I have one Russian overlapping you, then I can say, well, I'm going to take a look at Joe too, because, I mean, here he is. I need to protect Joe from potential Russian, recruitment. And that never existed until 2016.
Well, and there's got to be a reason why he did that. It is Kyle Seraphin, Seraphin. Go follow him over on Rumble. Go to kyleseraphin.com. Specifically about the FISA stuff, and I don't want to get into the weeds too much, at the end of 16, beginning of 17, we know that they were re-upping this ability to continue the warrant by lying to the judge. I can say that without any fear of repercussions because they were lying. They were planting news stories, as I said. They were pretending there was new evidence they found when they didn't find any new evidence. They just wanted to keep on surveilling Trump Tower. They pretended it was about Carter Page. It wasn't. They were surveilling the entire place. So having said that, I agree with you. No retribution, but you can't just get away with that. Or else, why would the future FBI directors and assistant directors, why would they ever stop?
Yeah, there's no reason. It shouldn't just be losing your bar license for a year like Kevin. I think it was Kevin Klimesmith that actually did it. And
one guy went down.
And he literally inverted the meaning of an email. He took the email and he added a not or took out a not to 180 degrees change the meaning of an email to be able to re-up a FISA. People don't understand how aggressive and capable FISA warrants are. They can go as deep as putting microphones into your home, bugging your physical devices, taking over some of the electronics that are going to be in your personal vehicle, things like that. Like, it is a really invasive capability to do that. And we might need that in case we need to keep Americans safe. But you only get tools like that if you are, in fact, judicious with the use of them, and you've proven yourself worthy of being able to sort of have that extreme power. The FBI has proven itself unworthy of it, and it kind of needs to go into a penalty box. One of the other recommendations I said is that they should have to wear suits every day. I don't like wearing a suit, by the way, Joe. I'm not a big guy into wearing suits, but you need to wear a suit because when you don't do your job, this is like old school enlisted type stuff. If you don't do your job properly, you got to show up in your blues or your class A's every single day to be able to show that you understand what it is that you're putting on your body. And you need to show people from the outside, I'm going to hold myself accountable. And one of the ways I do it is dressing the part. The FBI has gotten very slovenly and very relaxed in this way, and it actually has crept into the sort of moral foundations and the principles they should be operating under. So I think some penalty box time is necessary.
I'm with you. Kyle Seraphin, FBI whistleblower, former FBI agent. Go and check out his podcast over on Rumble. Kyle Seraphin is the first and last name. I want to finish up on FISA this way. Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act, that's what it stands for. There was nothing going on between Trump and the Russians. That was all fake from the dossier. I think either FISA has to go away or they've got to completely reform it to where you prove there is a foreign connection and not proof that you're proving something that your agency already said or some complicit news agency. Would you be okay with it going away or completely reforming it? Something's got to happen with it, doesn't it?
So I was asking this question to people that did intel for a living for a very long time, like 20, 30 years at a time. And the answer is that FISA actually is a relatively new creation, and it was towards the tail end of the Cold War. We didn't have FISA or the capabilities of FISA all the way through the bulk of the Cold War right up until it started ending.
Right.
So I'm fairly confident you can get rid of it and you're going to be okay. You might want to be able to have a little bit of an expedited process for getting Title III warrants, and you need to probably have Congress pass some statutes that's going to allow you to say, okay, there's probable cause to believe that there's a crime. You're going to need those crimes laid out. But you could do that. That just takes real hard work of people doing the job that they get paid to do and showed up to do in Congress. But with those parameters, I'd be totally fine with it. I think it totally makes sense. The problem is that it makes your job harder, which is the right thing for the American people. Like, if your job is an investigator and you are going to go out there and potentially deprive people of either privacy or their liberties, shouldn't you have to work at it? So
of course.
I never had a problem when somebody told me, oh, I wanted to make it easier for my job. It's like, no, your job is supposed to be hard. That's what you signed up for, brother. It's got to be something that you put in the work. And if you can put in the work and you can back it up, you can have access to all kinds of things.
Right.
And if you can't, it's not for you.
You make perfect sense. It's Kyle Seraphin. What do you make of these guys showing up at people's doors? Hey, I saw you posted something on Facebook. Wanted to talk to you about it. Wanted to ask a few questions. Since when is the FBI monitoring Facebook? Unless I say I'm going to kill and then name somebody, why are you showing up to investigate why I'm against the pro-Palestinian protest? I mean, this is literally your former agency is showing up. And by the way, they're wearing T-shirts and hats and they look scrubby. You're right. They should be wearing suits. But what do you make of them showing up at the door, knocking on the door of some 70-year-old lady saying, why did you post that?
So there's this thing that the FBI constantly does to avoid being scrutinized. It's called the First Amendment caveat. So they'll open these cases under a system called eGuardian. That means that one of your neighbors, by the way, snitched on you and said, oh, I saw this post. It's really a problem. So it's usually not the FBI finding it. It's that it's been reported.
Okay.
But they know that it's going to work. Now, what they do is they get this eGuardian system, which is for all reporting from everything from, potential school shooter all the way up into your Facebook posts or garbage.
Right.
And this goes out to a field office and they have to address them. And anything that fits into a parameter where they think they can put it underneath a threat, and this is another big issue. Threats are very nebulous. Then they may be able to contact you. Now, an honest person is going to look at it, say this is First Amendment protected activity, and they're going to throw that lead away. That's what I used to do. Occasionally, you get one that would say like, I'm coming for you, and I'll see you soon or something.
Right.
And I would pick up the phone and call that person and say, hey, I got a tip that you're making threats. Can you tell me about this? And by the way, you can hang up on the FBI if they call you.
Right.
And they would be like, oh, I'm going to come for the guy's job. Like I want to run for mayor. And you're like, oh, okay, fine. So then you close it. So that stuff is all fine. And if you're going to knock and talk on the door, like they should be leading with you don't have to talk to me. Because if you want to earn credibility, that's how you do it. You tell people, look, you don't have to talk to me. You're not required to. You're not being detained. I have a couple of questions. You've been reported as, potentially a threat. I'd like you to explain it if you're willing to give me any context. And if you want to tell me to piss off, that's okay too. And that should be the way that you handle these things. By the way, you get a lot of people that will talk to you if you do it that way. I used to do that. But that's not what we're seeing. What we're seeing is people that are basically going out there in bad faith. They're operating in poor faith. And then they are either being embarrassed or they are actually ensnaring people, because most people talk because when they hear the three letters FBI, something happens inside your sympathetic nervous system that makes your heart beat and your hands get cold.
Yeah, it's kind of scary.
Feel like running, and they act a little bit more inappropriately than they otherwise, and they will say things just to make you go away, and sometimes it's self-incriminating. So I always tell people ABCD, always be closing the door to the FBI. That's a real simple thing to remember. And if you do that, you won't have any problems, but we need to reform the parameters that sends these agents out there in the first place, because there needs to be a filter, a BS filter, if you will, that the agent says, I'm empowered to not go and knock on doors and scare people.
It is Kyle Seraphin. Go follow him everywhere. Kyle, less than a minute, but I need to know, job one for Kash Patel when he gets in the seat.
He needs to grab a hold of the management culture. He needs to put in a strong deputy director, and he needs to start wrangling the senior executive service aggressively. They need to get back on mission. Anybody that violated the law, anybody that suborned violations of the law needs to be removed. And then we need to start promoting people that just wanted to do the job and take this away from an intel focus. And as Kash likes to say, go be cops. They need to get back to investigating crime as a primary responsibility.
Is it a matter? Steve Friend, a friend of both yours and mine, he has said, disarm the FBI, make them work with local law enforcement to do a better job. Does that make sense?
It's a reasonable thing to discuss, and I don't think there's any problem with it. Steve and I agree on pretty much all the stuff he talks about. So, yeah, is it an interesting technique? It certainly would change the game as far as being able to ask people who are used to doing armed, investigations in the street and make them be accountable that way. It would definitely change the dynamic and the power dynamic for sure.
And they know the community much better. It's KyleSeraphin.com. Go follow him there. Also on Rumble. Kyle, thanks for making time, brother. Talk to you soon.
Appreciate it, Joe.
All right, my man. We're back after this. Stay right here.
Joe Pags.
Clear.
One in the chat. We thought, Sam and I talked about it. We thought that interview would be cool to bring to you again tonight. Glad to have you along for the ride. I am here now because rerun, it's a best of. Well, that was the best of interview, I guess. But this is going to be my last show for this year, so I'm glad that you all are here. And yes, Merry Christmas to you all. Happy New Year to you all. Happy Hanukkah if you celebrate Hanukkah. And looking forward to getting a little bit of downtime. First time since any real downtime since June, I believe. So, and by the way, Polo is the man who's hooking me up and letting me do all this. He's taking care of business. We're going to have some best of shows while I'm off, and I appreciate him always stepping up. So if you listen on the radio, you'll still hear me, and that will be Polo running the show. Thank you, Lynn. Appreciate you. Mele Kalikimaka, Brother Bruce. Back at you, Brad. You're amazing, Lynn. Back at you, V-Dub. Back at you, Jesh. Thank you, Underdog. Appreciate the 200. Back at you, Coffee. You too, John. Thank you, Juke. Good to see you from Sweden. Glad you're hanging out. Isn't it middle of the night in Sweden? What are you doing? Oldie, thank you. No mask, thanks. All right, Varajo, let's go. I'll be back on the 6th. Thank you, KB. Neil, 1, 2, 3, let's go. We'll do oldie. Okay. 3 a.m. It's Gucci. I'm up that late here, so I get you. Thank you, Michaels. All right, Underdog. You have to follow me on social media. I'm sure I'll be posting over on Instagram, on TikTok, and on YouTube. You're not subbed on YouTube. Maybe make sure you do. Joe Talk Show on YouTube. Joe Talk Show. We're streaming right there right now, along with Twitch. I appreciate you hanging out. I thought that you would enjoy that Kyle Seraphin interview again because we've got a new DOJ coming in and things have to change. That is for sure. Going to have to change. It can't continue the way that it is. We actually need them to be an agency that does, in fact, defend justice and bring justice to the American people. Going to get out of here for now. Going to take a few days off for Christmas and the New Year. Merry Christmas to you and yours. Happy New Year. Happy Hanukkah if that's what you celebrate. Appreciate having you along for the ride. For Sam, for Polo, and for my family and me, Joe Pags. Have a great night.
You're listening to Joe Pags.
Clear.
All right, Polo, great job, brother, man. Appreciate you. Let me know if you need anything from me.
Should be good, hopefully.
You the man. Sam, thank you, honey. Appreciate it.
Bye.
See you, Tamale.
Yep.
All right, people, Gabby's not streaming tonight, so y'all have a great night and a Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, Happy Hanukkah. Going to get out of here for now. Really appreciate you hanging out. On YouTube, this was a special edition for you guys tonight. I normally don't put the radio show up here. I don't think it works well on YouTube. You can see it went from 150 or something people watching. It went down to like 60 or something. I don't think YouTube is the right place for long form like that, especially when there are commercial breaks. But if you like what you saw, go check out my short videos. Go check out my long videos. We put the interviews up there too. And make sure that you're subscribed on YouTube. Y'all have a great night. Got to go for now. We'll see you later.